The Undetectable Strongest Job, Rule Breaker Volume 5.5. In this world, the first day of the year wasn't a holiday. It simply felt like something special happened last night. Hikaru, Lavia, and Paula were on a carriage leaving Hopestadt. They planned to use the Draken Passage to return to Scholazard, but the entrance to the passage wasn't exactly walking distance. "What's this?" Hikaru noticed a change on his soul board. Soul board: Hikaru, age: 16, rank: 42-3, vitality, magical power, physical strength, strength 1, weapon mastery, throwing 10, max, heaven shot 0, agility, power burst 5, stealth, life obfuscation 4, mana obfuscation 4, imperceptibility 5, max. Assassination 3, max. Sniping 3, max. Group obfuscation 4. Intuition. Instinct 1, detection, life detection 1, mana detection 3. Detection expansion 3, max. His age had gone up. He checked Lavia's and Paula's soul boards and their ages had increased by 1 as well. So we age a year every new year, and not on our birthdays, which makes it uniform for everyone. That's pretty convenient. The carriage rocked down the road. Sitting beside him was Lavia, who was already starting to doze off. Paula was beside her, telling stories of the church to a kid. Another passenger, the tiger-eared boy, listened attentively, his eyes filled with excitement. How peaceful. It had been a while since Hikaru studied his board carefully, and he sensed something odd. Now that I think about it, I felt something strange while looking at Johann's soul board. Like I saw things differently, or something. Hikaru stared at the board for a while. Just watching made him want to spend his 3 marvelous points. I think using them now is alright, but how do I allocate them? Heaven shot. This one's a no-go. Hikaru knew it was a higher level weapon mastery stat, but the description read lose part of what makes one human. Losing one's humanity is no joke. Stealth. It might be a good idea, but since he already had 4 points on both life and the mana obfuscation, he needed 2 points to max them both. Instinct. A very handy skill. 1 point already proved really useful, so he wanted to add more points to it. But since it maxed out at 20, an increase from 1 to 2 might not make much of a difference. The description read heighten one's senses to achieve great foresight, similar to clairvoyance. Perhaps putting more points would eventually turn it into a precognition kind of skill. At least 10 points is probably needed for that, though. Detection, with 3 points on mana detection and maxed out detection expansion, he could already gather more than enough information. Hikaru mulled his options over. In the end, he added 1 point to instinct. His instinct told him that it would come in handy. He was surprised that his instinct worked in these cases too, but it also felt like his instinct was begging to be leveled up. Yeah, right. That can't be it. It's not like soul board stats have minds. As he moved his finger around, adding a point to instinct, his eyes widened in astonishment. It wasn't as though he developed some sort of a new sensation, but there was something different. What it was exactly, though, he couldn't quite explain. He then realized it had nothing to do with his senses, but his soul board. There's a plus sign beside my name. The symbol wasn't there before, and he hadn't seen it in others' boards either, including Lavia and Paula's. Hikaru focused on his soul board and tapped the plus sign. It opened. He found new stats: Soul Blaze, Unlock Plus, Divine Connect, Access Plus. What the? He blurted out. What in the world is this? He suppressed the urge to scream. Hikaru-sama, you. It's nothing. Paula gave him a curious look, while Lavia dozed off silently. Wait. How do these even work? The stats were independent of the other skill trees. Since descriptions appeared on the other stats when he concentrated, He tried the same to see if it worked. Soul Blaze increases Soul Board's effect by 10%. Unlock Plus grants basic ability to points used to unlock a stat. Divine Connect user will know how much points are needed to gain a blessing. Access Plus increases range from which the user can access others' soul boards to 50 meters. They all had quite amazing effects. What is this? Like the soul board's skill tree or something? Hikaru guessed right. The stats were displayed whether on the vitality page or the magical power page. Above the 4 stats was the number 1, which most likely meant he could activate only one of them for now. Which one do I get? Soul Blaze basically just improves my abilities. Same with Unlock Plus. Though in my case, I just unlocked both vitality and magical power and never really configured them, so the points I used on them are basically dead points. This Unlock Plus might give them some use, which is great. Still can't use magic, though. Hikaru had a total of 58 points, 8 of which he used to unlock certain stats. Overall, learning Unlock Plus seemed to be the better option, but if he wanted to improve his strong points, Soul Blaze would be best. Now on to Divine Connect. It mentions blessing. I wonder. Hikaru took out his guild card, which was basically a soul card. Adventurers Guild card name Hikaru registration Pond Adventurers Guild, Kingdom of Bonsonia rank D job class %2. As always, his Heaven's Messenger class was showing bugged out characters. The job class system is a gift from the gods, in other words, receiving blessings. Does this mean I'll be able to know how many points I need to put on a stat for a job class to appear on my card? Of course. Since Heaven's Messenger wasn't derived from the soul board, getting Divine Connect might not even give him answers. Still, an ability that could help understand this divine system of job classes and blessings could be extremely valuable. Lastly, there's Access Plus. This one sounds good. With a 50-meter distance, I can check all the soul boards I want unnoticed. For the most part, getting within 5 meters of his target to check their soul board wasn't difficult. But there might be times when it's physically impossible to check, like if his target was behind a wall. With this, he can solve that problem. Which one should I get? I'm not sure. How did I even get this in the first place? Is it because I now have 2 points on instinct? No, that's not it. All of a sudden, he recalled the conversation he had with Celica. There's that. But also because this world's fair, in a sense. Fair? Frequently using magic will make you better at it. Killing monsters gives you power. Magic and souls. These are things that didn't exist on Earth. This world has them, and they're being balanced. Using magic will make you better at it. That's how this world tunes things. Does this mean I became proficient in the soul board because I kept on allocating points? Put it another way, using the soul board time and time again increased his experience and eventually he leveled up. And when he did, he earned bonus points to use. What if? Now this is purely hypothetical for now. What if spending somebody else's points will also increase my proficiency? In that case, I can do that on bandits or convicts on death row to level up. Eventually, I can upgrade all 4 of these. Oh boy, that would be wonderful. Ha ha. Ah ha 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 ha. Hikaru-sama, you've been acting strange for a while now. It's time to hunt some bandits. What? Where'd that come from? Hikaru decided to put off spending the point on his soul board plus until he proved his theory right. The year just started, and fortune is already on my side. He now had one more thing to look forward to while en route to Scholazard. Paula was as pale as a sheet, however. Snow fell softly outside, clinging to the roofs. Just staring at the white skies would make one sleepy. The pot whistled as steam jetted out. The room's owner, a blonde girl. No, she looked like a young girl, but she was much older, groaned. Let me guess. You brought bad news again. Marquido Myralka Kiril said. What do you mean again? Zofia van Houten's, Forestier's prime minister, gave a strained smile as she poured the boiling water to an actual teapot. The two had a friendly relationship. After all, they shared a common enemy, the old-fashioned people at the top of Forestia who rejected change. They were allied nations only by name, never wishing to truly be one, as that would mean powerful people of each nation losing their rights. But the times would not allow such a stance. The kingdom of Ponsonia was building its strength, preparing to invade the neighboring empire of Quinbland. I thought we finally had a chance to be united. You mean the war between Ponsonia and Quinbland? Ponsonia lost its king and is in the middle of a civil war, but it's not like they formed an alliance with the empire. The threat has not lessened. I thought the civil war would prevent them from attacking. The delegates seem relaxed now. I wish they understand that the two countries settling down means the power balance in the continent is collapsed. Here's your tea. Thanks. Beleg. Too bitter. No. It's not. There's just half the amount of sugar as usual. Half. The goddess of good harvests seems to be smiling upon you this winter. Are you saying I gained weight? Really? Markido rummaged around for a hand mirror. I don't know about those on top, but those at the bottom might change. Zofira said, sipping her sugarless tea with a straight face. The bottom? The queen asked, confused. She had found a mirror in her desk, although what it was doing there, she didn't know. You know, the mass wedding this coming spring where your fellow countryman Claude is taking the lead. Ah. Markido's expression turned slightly bitter. She herself cast a vote on the mass wedding. It went through as a result, but she didn't expect what happened afterwards. There's too many participants. 700 pairs, was it? It might even be over 1,000 already. Oh, my. The rift between the nations had that much effect on young couples. Huh? You talk like it doesn't have anything to do with you. But there's plenty of participants from Jarazak, you know. What's more, the couples are from the same nation. I thought so. Jarazak's customs are weird. Zofira heaved a sigh. Jarazak is a nation of martial arts, where skilled fighters can get away with a bit of selfishness. Young men used their skills to find a spouse. It didn't matter if the girl already had a lover. To counter this, men had to be strong, but people had their strengths and weaknesses. For them, the mass wedding was heaven sent. That just shows how distorted the alliance was. Markido said, 10 years per term was too short for a ruler. They couldn't even accomplish anything remarkable. In fact, one could say that the regulation was there so the king or queen couldn't do much. The mass wedding was there to try to unite all 7 nations. Because of this, there had been various movements all throughout this winter, Forestia's political season, and factions were formed. The Uniters, the faction that supported the unification of the nations, and the Separatists, those who were against it. Both factions didn't choose these names themselves, but rather, people just started calling them that. The Uniters were mostly composed of members from the smallest of the 7 nations, Zubora, and Kotobi, a nation that welcomed new technology and talent. The latter didn't explicitly state their stance, but rumors said the Alchemy King was backing the Uniters. Romania, who explicitly declared being against any sort of unification, belonged to the Separatists. Surprisingly, Hikaru, Markido's home nation, and its arch-nemesis, Ludenshire, didn't make their positions clear. These two nations received the brunt of the impact from the current situation. The wedding between Claude, a member of a distinguished family from Kiril, and Luca, Ludenshire's third princess. Both nations were still in a state of chaos, with people having differing opinions. Some wouldn't approve of the wedding, while some didn't mind getting along with the other. Still, I can't believe it got approved. It probably wouldn't have made it through if it weren't for that masked brat. Markido said, annoyance in her tone. She meant Hikaru. Of course, the delegates believed it was Zubora's prince, Sylvester, Ivan, Claude, and Luca, who suggested the wedding. Only a few people knew of the boy wearing a sun god mask and black clothes who worked behind the scenes. Oh, right. Speaking of masks, Zofira said. What? More bad news? Peering at the mirror, Makido didn't try to hide her annoyance as she pulled her cheeks. She was checking to see if she really gained weight. Bandits were busted by the main roads. What? Which main road? Is there even a need to report that to me? Well, so far, we've confirmed 5 different locations where gangs of bandits were found tied up in ropes. There's quite some distance between them too. What's going on exactly? Gangs of bandits tied up in 5 distant locations. Makido realized the abnormality of the case. Zofira, however, simply sighed. We're not sure. The only thing common between them is that their organizations were destroyed overnight. One person was tied up on a tree by the road, complete with a note that detailed the location of their hideout. When authorities went to the hideout, everyone was tied up. Is this some new kind of tactic to loot bandits? Well, actually, the valuables were left intact. Whoever did it left notes saying to return them to their owners. In all 5 locations? Yup. Are they trying to play hero or something? Zofira smiled. According to the bandits, it was a lone boy wearing a silver mask and black clothes who did it. He called himself Silverface. So that kid got a new mask? Probably. I'm grateful for him exterminating these bandits, but not knowing what he's thinking is just terrifying. Zofira stood up and started cleaning up. Okay, enough chatter about things we don't have answers for, and get back to work. First, the maritime nation of Virashin is making some strange moves. Phew, we finally made it. The sun was already setting by the time they got off the carriage. Snow had stopped falling, but the wind was still chilly, blowing frozen snow on the ground. So cold. It's too cold? Yes. The inside of the carriage was warm, with its protection against the cold and magic item. Stepping outside made them feel the chill even more. The party, Drake included, who was shivering around Lavia's neck, made their way to their apartment. Katie had the key, which they'll pick up tomorrow. For now, they'll just ask the landlord to open it. You can really feel the difference when there's no wind, Hikaru said as he lit a fire in the fireplace. It might still be a while before they could remove their cloaks. The place wasn't as dusty, considering they were gone for a long time. Perhaps Katie dropped by from time to air the apartment. Hikaru. Lavia pulled on his sleeve. Now that we're back, how about some greetings? What? Hikaru had no idea what she was trying to say. I'm home. She wanted to say that this was their home, although temporary. Oh, welcome back. And I'm home. Welcome back, Hikaru. They both chuckled. Hikaru-sama. There's a letter on the table. Paula said. Thanks. Maybe it's from Professor Katie. As he scanned the contents, his eyes widened. What is that dragon stone? Please don't leave that thing out in the open. I can't suppress the urge to study it to my heart's content. Please come back soon. It's dangerous. That thing is dangerous. I don't think I can hold myself back. It's dangerous. Come back soon. It's dangerous. It would appear that the dragon stone, the stone Hikaru got from killing the subspecies of earth dragon in Unelporten, was too tempting for Katie. My bad, Hikaru thought. Hikaru looked around the room. The huge dragon stone and other magic rocks lay on the shelf. The gems Lavia obtained from the underground dungeon and the book with the gorgeous binding were left untouched as well. The fact that dust hadn't piled up on them meant that despite her complaints, Katie still came to do some light dusting. The moment Hikaru sat on his bed, he felt the fatigue leaving his body. Finally, we can relax for a while, he muttered as he lay down on the bed. Hikaru. Paula made tea. Lavia entered the room. Okay, I'll be right there. By the way, what was that book about? It's locked, so I haven't read it yet. Looking at it from the side, it seems to be like an encyclopedia. I see. In that case, I don't have to read it right away. I could probably even use it as practice for opening locks. Whoa, what's that? Drake woke up. What are you talking about? Hikaru asked. That stone right there. The big one. Oh, it's a dragon stone I got from killing this subspecies of an earth dragon. A dragon stone. Can I eat it? What? Why? And no. You can't. I want to. No, you don't. Is that even edible? Of course. That's the reason why we're in this world in the first place. What do you mean by that? Hikaru moved somewhere else and asked Drake questions while sipping his tea. The room had warmed up a bit, so he could now remove his cloak. Hikaru and the girls snacked on some candies, while Drake devoured the fried garlic they bought from a food stand. In short, Dragon's mission is to kill dragons, creatures associated with evil. Dragon stones represent dragons, and eating them is proof of the kill. Yup. Exactly, Drake said, garlic stuck all over his mouth. Man, that stinks. Lavia was preparing some apple-like fruit to neutralize the smell. She'll probably feed it to Drake later. What happens if you eat one? Well, it's our mission. I know that. I'm asking you what happens afterwards. We just have to eat them. Nothing happens. Huh? So it's all just for self-satisfaction. In that case, it's better to use it in making weapons. You can't. That means leaving behind something from the dragon. They reproduce at a fast rate, so we must annihilate them quick. According to Drake, there's a turf war between the holy and the forces of evil in this world. Dragons and dragons fought for each side, respectively. The soul board treats holy and evil equally, though God belongs to the holy side. If the soul board was created by the gods, shouldn't they favor the holy stats? No. There has to be balance in the system. The existence of something holy can only be proven because there's evil. Now that's really fair. By the way, Hikaru-sama, about the experiment you did where you took out bandits. Did it go well? By experiment, Paula meant the test Hikaru did by spending others' skill points, in this case, bandits, and seeing if his soul board level would increase. He ended up using over 200 points, but nothing came out of it. Hikaru still only had 1 point on his soul board plus. The experiment was a failure. Oh, I am sorry. It's fine. I'm going to bed. The tea warmed his body up, making him feel sleepy all of a sudden. He had a lot of things to think about: the complicated soul boards system, the proxy war between dragons and dragons, what to do with the dragon stone. He could sell it for a hefty price or use it to enhance his gear, but if he were to believe Drake, he should let the dragon eat the stone. Hikaru left the living room, while Drake, already full after eating all the fruit, was sleeping on the table. Lavia brought a cloth, folded it 4 times, and covered the dragon. Paula? What's wrong? It's nothing. It doesn't look like it's nothing. She clearly looked depressed. I asked Hikaru-sama a rude question earlier. You mean the experiment? I don't think it bothers him. I couldn't even help much in Agiapol. If anything, I only got in the way. Paula should have been the one most informed about the church, but she didn't get to accomplish much, and that bothered her. In fact, wearing clothes similar to a nun's drew the attention of the Grey Deacon Jalop. I thought I was being nice, but I might have offended him. You're overthinking it, Lavia said. If he's offended, he'll say so. Quite bluntly at that, him not saying anything means he doesn't mind. Her words might sound harsh, but she could say them because of her trust in Hikaru. Despite her ability to use powerful spirit magic, he never feared her, nor did he show excessive concern for her. He was frank when talking to her. For Lavia, Hikaru was an irreplaceable person. Hikaru hadn't told Paula everything yet, and Paula knew he was hiding something. That's why she's worried. Lavia believed that Hikaru would tell her one day. It had to come from his mouth, not hers. It's fine. You're pretty, after all, Lavia said. No, I'm not. And that doesn't have to do with anything, Paula replied, blushing. The next day, Hikaru and the girls dropped by Scholarzard's Adventurers Guild. Having registered in this country, in the capital Forestard, Lavia was more of a home player, while Hikaru and Paula were outsiders. On a side note, Drake had too much to eat early and was fast asleep in the apartment. It was already the latter half of January, but the snow wouldn't be thawing out until later in April. As they opened the double door, Warm air rushed from the inside. Not a lot of adventurers were present in the guild. The receptionists themselves didn't seem that busy as they were chatting with their colleagues. "Excuse me, can I ask something?" Oh, of course." Hikaru addressed one of the receptionists as politely as possible. Flustered, she checked his guild card, her eyes widening in surprise when she saw the rank D. Rank D at his age was rare. After getting some information from her, Hikaru returned to Lavia and Paula, who were waiting on a table. "I got all sorts of info," Hikaru said. "You? What's the matter?" Lavia stared at him with disgusted eyes. "It's nothing," she said, pulling her chair closer to Hikaru to the point where their bodies touched. "Doesn't look like it's nothing. What's wrong? You're not even aware." "Aware of what?" Not sure what was going on, Hikaru eyed Paula, who only gave a strained laugh. Hikaru had actually grown taller, and with his 1 point on strength, his body looked firm and robust. His once frail look was gradually disappearing. He was slowly turning from a boy to a young man. To top it all off, he had his hair cut by Lavia this morning, whom he told to do it however she wanted. Thanks to that, he now had this intellectual air to him. To the receptionists who mostly dealt with roughnecks, Hikaru was attractive and a refreshing sight. Hikaru had been here before. He didn't receive any special treatment back then, so he felt the receptionist's reaction now was a bit odd, but didn't think too much of it. A little change and women will treat you differently. What do you mean? So, what kind of info did you gather? Oh, about that. Let's start with Agiapol. Paula gave a jerk. She must still be bothered by what happened. The head priests from the suburbs had entered the tower to investigate the theft of Iron Beast's national treasure and inspect the underground research facility. They're also pushing for the Pope's dismissal. Gilbert Gabranth was released from prison and is now working with the priests. That escalated quickly. While on the way back to Scholazid, they heard that Iron Beast sent an emissary to Bios to demand an explanation. The Adventurers Guild continued gathering intel of the following events, and shared it openly with adventurers. The situation escalated considerably while Hikaru was out taking down bandits. It looks like they're being too open about it, though, Hikaru thought. They're even disclosing info about international and domestic disputes. Does the Adventurers Guild hate the church? Hikaru tried asking about the situation between Princess Kudyastoria and Prince Austrian, but the receptionist said she couldn't disclose any information related to that. Anyway, it'll be up to the church whether they can change things for the better or not. Good thing I sent the notes. Hikaru took measures so the Pope couldn't cover up Iron Beast's protests, or mislead the regional priests. As Scott Fairs instructed, he sent the Red Priest's notes along with details of the current situation to Dennis Lugram in Vilzentra, the capital of Virashin, where the latter served as a priest. It was thanks to these notes that Hikaru learned about Further Gravy and the underground facility. The fact the regional priests demanded an investigation of the underground facility meant the notes made it to its destination. I just hope those corrupt priests and monks, like the Jalop guy, are terminated. The church's ability to purify itself would be tested. I'm sure it'll all work out, Paula said, clasping her hands tightly over her chest. She had plenty of things on her mind. She wanted to get involved, say something, anything, but she held herself back so she didn't bother Hikaru. He understood how she felt. Hikaru-sama, can I visit the church today? I want to know what's going on with the local church. I'm sure they already know what the guild knows. Of course you can. Thank you. I'm sorry for always being selfish. I don't think you're. Before he could finish his words, Paula stood up and whispered something to Lavia. At least she meant to. But since Lavia was sitting close to Hikaru, he could hear what she was saying. You can go on a date with just the two of you today. Lavia's light skin turned red. Hey, Paula. I'll be back in the evening. Paula then left the guild quickly. Oh, God. Did you hear that, Hikaru? Nope. What did she say? Hikaru pretended he didn't hear anything. "It's fine, then," Lavia said, pouting, as she inched even closer to him. Hikaru left the guild together with Lavia. He also shared other information he got with her. "What? The mass wedding has gotten that big?" According to the receptionist, over 1,000 couples had already applied. Even she was ecstatic. "Ah, a couple destined to never be together overcome all the hardship and will finally pledge their love to each other. So romantic," the receptionist said. Who knew how much people embellished Claude and Luca's story? But the more they exaggerated it, the more couples whose destiny would be changed. If it was too realistic, they wouldn't care about their story. There are already plays about in every place. It's apparently slowly becoming standard. Everyone knew about Kira and Ludensha's relationship. Defying the odds, a mass wedding was approved by various nations. Not everyone agreed. Of course, Ludensha severely opposed the idea and Luca's mother even tried to kill her daughter. But even the audience loved this part. The play was also performed in Ludensha, with some modifications. The allied nations of Forestia had an unprecedented marriage boom in their hands. If a child was born between Claude and Luca, next would be a baby boom. A wedding, huh? Lavia muttered. "Where will it be held? Can we go watch?" "The plan is to do it in Forest. Let's go watch if nothing important comes up." "Yay!" Hikaru heard girls usually loved weddings and dreamed of being brides, and Lavia was no exception. Seeing it firsthand made him realize it was true. "A marriage between me and Lavia? No. We're too young. Only 16 and 15. Ah, but wait. I guess marriage during teenage years is common in this world." Hikaru's face turned beet red. Lavia watched him dubiously. Lavia, I forgot to ask before, but when's your birthday?" "My birthday? The 14th of February." "What? It's close. And that's Valentine's Day." "Oh, wait. I doubt they celebrate that here." "Yeah, I know." "What about it? Do people not celebrate birthdays here?" "I think they just indulge themselves a bit, but that's it." Lavia looked just a bit sad. She lived most of her life like a bird in a cage, so she might not have celebrated her birthday even once, since she never really mentioned it herself. Hikaru refrained from asking as well. She was over her past. "What about Paula? I wonder. Her birthday's on the 1st of April. When did you even tell each other?" Hikaru felt dejected from being left out. "April Fool's, huh? Fits her somehow." How it fit her exactly? He didn't know. "What about yours?" Lavia asked. "This body's or the real you?" "Of course." Lavia gave a wry smile as she held Hikaru's hand. 6th of March. "Oh, one birthday every month. It might just be a coincidence." But Hikaru felt some sort of a connection. "So about Paula? She's thinking of staying at some inn again, right?" Hikaru said. "She only stayed with us yesterday because we just arrived." "Yes, I think she still plans on doing that." "Should we ask her to stay with us?" "I'm not sure. Paula might want some distance. She formed a party with us after leaving her best friends Pio and Priscilla. She might not want to get too close right away out of consideration for them." "Do you want me to ask her?" "That would be great." "Well actually." Hikaru turned away, not looking at Lavia. "I'm glad we have some alone time together." Lavia didn't say a word. Hikaru glanced at her, wondering if his over-selfishness appalled her, only to find her face flushed all the way to her ears. "You dummy." "I feel the same way too." Faces red. They walked silently. It was winter in Scholazid, but a warm wind blew by them as though spring had already come. It had been a while since they had a conversation like this while walking around town. If Celica saw us, she'd probably snap a little, Hikaru thought. "What the?" Hikaru stopped in his tracks. Lavia followed his eyes as well. "Oh." They spotted a single food cart, seemingly thriving as customers constantly lined up. Even in this cold weather, there were still food carts out, not the ones with only a simple roof. Though in the winter, the carts were actually covered by boards to keep out the cold. The stall's keeper, a blond man with a solid build who looked better off as an adventurer, noticed the two of them. "Hey, there, would you like some?" the man said. This was Hikaru's first meeting with a man who looked just like someone he knew. What really caught his attention was the food he was selling. "Hot dogs, 30 gallons each. We have spicy ones, too," he added. Hikaru talked to the man to answer some of his suspicions. As he expected, this hot dog stand was one of the branches of Bond Hot Dog, a hot dog stand chain that Silica financed. "She's fast, too fast." According to the man, the owner Silica wanted to open branches in major cities right away before other businesses could copy her idea. The store's logo, incidentally, was a caricature of a pigtails. "I'm surprised it sells well. Anyone can come up with the idea of selling hot dogs," Hikaru said. "The balance of flavor is superb. The ketchup and mustard, was it? They're both tasty." Mustard existed in this world as well, but there was no sauce that was modified specifically for hot dogs. This flavor was Bond Hot Dog's strong point. Moreover, the sausage itself was a bit different than the ones in Japan. The meat had a distinct impact to it. Overall, it was much more delicious. "You can even add cheese, salsa sauce, and vegetables that are in season," Lavia said. "One hot dog is enough for a meal. This will definitely sell. I know you just like the spicy one." Hikaru also invested in Pond Hot Dog and instructed Silica to include a spicy flavor as an option. He thought one day somewhere, Lavia might come across it and want spicy hot dogs. There would always be people who loved spicy food in every city. According to the shopkeeper, 1 of 10 people ordered spicy hot dog. In a cold town like Scholarsid, spicy food were popular as well. When business slowed down and customers stopped coming for a while, Hikaru asked the keeper some more specific questions. According to the man, he was an adventurer until he injured his knee and couldn't continue working as one. Silica hired people like him and deployed them to various places. "So it's like an outplacement service for ex-adventurers? I'm surprised she even has the time." Ranks B adventurers were usually too busy, and right now the 4 stars were recruited for war. Yet she still found the time to start a hot dog business after ripping money off from Hikaru, even using her trademark pigtails. "I bet there are plenty of delicious foods in Japan," Lavia said. "I would love to go there if possible." She had actually learned bits about Japan from Silica. "I think food in this world is delicious too," Hikaru said. "And also books." "So that's what you're really after." Japan did have a vast number of books. A bookworm like Lavia would surely love the place. Of course, she'd have to study Japanese first, but Hikaru felt like she'd be able to master it in no time at all. Lavia managed to finish her hot dog. "Wow, you can eat," the shopkeeper said. "The sauce used in this spicy hot dog is actually a secret recipe from the master. He said he studied under a young boy or something." "So Silica is the owner and that guy from Pond, I believe his name was Ernest, is the master." Hikaru and Lavia then left the food cart and went on to buy daily necessities. "Oh, a jewelry store." Hikaru stopped in front of a store. He could see what's inside through the fairly big window glass. Realizing Lavia didn't wear a lot of accessories, he came up with an idea. "Lavia, in my country, we actually celebrate birthdays. And since ours are close." They entered the shop. Scholarsid's church was grand, but only few people visited it. Mostly because it was an uneventful day. People also chose to work away in warmer places during the winter, so the overall population was actually lower. Paula talked to the 40-something priest present who was also aware of the situation in Agiopol. "There are 3 head priests in Forestia and all of them went to Agiopol," he said. "They were also keeping a close eye on what's happening through the church's intel network." When the priest found out that Paula was not from Forestia, he also asked questions, so she told him what she knew. Then, a monk serving in Forestia arrived with new news. Father Gravy, who managed to escape Agiopol, is taking refugees with him to Einbeast to seek asylum. "What?" The priest was surprised. So was Paula, but not at the news, but because things turned out just like Hikaru said it would. Is Further Gravy okay? Yes. Beast welcomed him and the refugees. But Further Gravy said there's still people who need help and went back to the bios with one company. Is this company a woman? Paula asked. I don't know, but yes. It could be. I heard a very skilled woman protected the refugees. Even though her shabby clothes were drenched with monster blood, she still stood tall and proud. The Blue Knight, Coney Mercury, immediately came to mind. The Scholazard priest looked baffled. Father Gravy is a red priest famous among the regional churches. Why wouldn't he turn to His Holiness for help, and instead choose to flee the country? I believe that's why the priests are heading to the tower. I know, but it sounds like... The priest didn't finish his words. He was probably going to say something that criticized the Pope. Gravy's actions could only be seen as he couldn't count on the Pope, so he fled to the neighboring country. But it made sense, considering the situation. According to the Adventurers Guild, the regional priests demanded the Pope to resign. In terms of position, there was no one above the Pope except God himself, so he had to resign at his own will. The regional priests, who stood above ministers and monks, criticized the Pope openly. If Further Gravy is on the right, then he'd be like a saint. Paula said. The priest and the monk were taken aback. Why, you're right. By all means, we must have him visit Forestia. The priest and the monk were mere mortals. While the church itself was shaken, they were excited at the birth of a new hope. After promising to share information from here on, they parted ways. That took longer than I expected. Paula had missed lunch and was starving. She walked the streets, looking for food stalls where she could have a light lunch. Would Hikaru-sama be happy about this new information? The church had intel that the guild didn't. She felt happy, knowing it might help Hikaru. Oh, Paula, you're such a great help. I simply did it for you. Thank you. You don't actually have to do anything. As long as you're by my side, I'm more than happy. Hikaru-sama. Paula chuckled, her expression just a bit crazy for a young lady. She drew surprised looks from men as she passed by. Oops. Get yourself together, she thought as she returned to her usual expression. Then, her eyes stopped at a shop. She could see inside through the window glass. She saw Hikaru and Lavia smiling at each other as they wore matching silver bangles on their wrists. Suddenly, she regained composure. Of course, I told Lavia to go on a date with him. Them being intimate was perfectly normal. Paula should be happy. In fact, wearing matching accessories was just something a couple would do. She knew all along. But for some reason, it's getting cold. Thin clouds hung in the skies, followed by thicker ones that completely blocked out the sun. A cold breeze blew past, robbing Paula of her body heat. Shivering, she buried her face into her scarf. What should I get for lunch? Oh, right. I gotta find an inn too. Recalling what she had to do, Paula left in quick steps. Hikaru suddenly felt something and looked around. Was there someone watching us? With his mana detection, he spotted a familiar mass of mana, several times massive than that of regular citizens. Oh, Paula passed by. Even my instinct sensed her. Huh? Amazing. Adding one more point to it might have been a good idea. After all, what's wrong? Lavia asked. It's nothing. Hikaru paid the bill. In the end, Paula found herself a place to stay. When Hikaru and Lavia returned home, she told them about it and quickly left. They couldn't even stop her. The next day, Hikaru and Lavia headed to the academy, which was just around the corner from their apartment. Lavia wore the winter clothes that they ordered to be made last summer, a skirt as blue as her eyes with a belt around her waist. The fabric itself was of high quality, the kind nobles used, but overall it looked simple and subdued. Aren't you glad you get to wear that? I sure am. Unfortunately, the coat covers it. The cold weather required one to wear a coat, therefore concealing her attire. Still, Lavia was excited to wear her new clothes. I guess Paula's working. Yeah, Paula said she'd get a job to pay for the place she'd be staying at. She probably didn't want to completely rely on Hikaru. 2.5 million gallons had already been deposited to Hikaru's account as payment for delivering Princess Kaguya-toria's letter to BIOS. While it was a designated request for Hikaru, to him the money was for the whole team. Paula's quite stubborn. Huh? You didn't know that? We're actually similar. Lavia said. Now that she mentioned it, she can be stubborn too, Hikaru thought. He was a little worried leaving Paula alone, so he left Drake with her. It could be seen as being overprotective, but better safe than sorry. Drake needed to absorb mana to regain his powers, but Paula's 6 points on mana was plenty enough, so it shouldn't be a problem. In fact, Lavia's 15 was just too much. Somehow feels nostalgic. The gate to the academy was open, though only very few students entered. Hikaru looked up at the buildings, wondering if there were professors around. Beyond the falling snow, he spotted a few windows with lights on. It was quiet. There was no one in the training grounds. Just a blanket of white snow. Only Hikaru and Lavia's footsteps echoed in the dimly lit halls. Rooms where light spilled from seemed awfully warm to the eyes. They arrived at Katie's laboratory and knocked at the door. It's open. Katie's voice came from inside. There used to be a lot of researchers here, but Hikaru could only detect one person. He opened the door to find Katie alone. Her lab coat was creased. Her dashing look was nowhere to be seen. The lab had always been messy, but it was worse this time. Reports and materials were strewn about. Katie didn't look in their direction. She was too focused on the material on her hand. You can keep on coming back, but my answer will always be the same. I'll be here all throughout winter working. I don't mind if there's fewer people in the admin building. Heck, I don't care if it's empty. Now you say you can't do that cause rules and whatnot and complain that you can't go home. But in the first place, this is a research institution. It's me, Professor, not an admin staff. Katie raised her head, her face blank. Hikaru? Oh. She got up, staggering towards Hikaru. Kicking the piles of books aside, she slipped on some papers and fell flat on the floor. Professor? Hikaru approached Katie and grabbed her hand to help her up. Hikaru, what was that huge dragon stone? I knew you'd ask that. It keeps on popping in my head. What are you gonna do about it? I've been doing my studies to distract myself, and I'm making so much progress. That sounds like a good thing, though. Hikaru said, looking around the room. Where are the others anyway? They're either home, or at the capital. Winter in Forestia is the political season, after all. There was sadness in her voice. Hikaru had this impression that the researchers didn't come here because they respected Katie. They wanted to get close to her for personal reasons. If they liked her as a woman, they'd be here even during winter. In fact, it would be an opportunity to spend time with her. It would then make sense that perhaps they were after her status. You sure have it rough. Hikaru said. Can't say I expected sympathy from you. The moment I got this tattoo, I was destined to only get men from Kotobi. Katie had a flame tattoo on her face. Just like her brother in Pond's Thieves Guild, Kelbeck. It was a symbol of her family and anyone who recognized it would know that she came from a notable family of magic item specialists. I think you're pretty even with your tattoo. Hikaru said. It's just a shame you're too focused on research to actually have the time to look around you. I'll take the compliment, but that second part was unnecessary. Now, how about some tea? Come in, Lavia. Oh, okay. Lavia casually skimmed through the reports, showing just how much of a bookworm she was, as she closed the door behind her. It was warm inside. Seeing Katie dump a bunch of tea leaves into the teapot, Lavia opted instead to make the tea herself. In the meantime, Hikaru and the professor cleared some space for them. So sit. Can you tell me what's going on with the rest of the Student Alliance members? Hikaru asked as he removed his coat. Let's see. To put it simply, Claude and Luca are living under the same roof in Jarazak. Claude and Luca, hailing from Kiril and Ludenshire, respectively, were the main stars of the mass wedding. They stayed in Jarazak for the time being in fear of being killed if they remained in their homelands. How are they? From what I heard, Jarazak's king, Alexei von Jarazak, has taken a liking to Claude and asks him to spar every single day. The king is overjoyed since he couldn't find someone who could match him before. I see. It was all because Hikaru configured Claude's soul board to improve his swordsmanship. What happened afterwards? He couldn't be bothered. Claude had to take care of himself. Apparently, he's called the Master Swordsman of the North now. Oh, a Master Swordsman, eh? Hikaru let out a groan. Claude had just gotten a little stronger, but compared to Ponsonia's Lawrence D. Falcon, he was just above average. He had nothing on the captain who had raised his great sword level to 6 through sheer hard work and even had a point on Heaven's Sword. You're not happy about your friend getting famous? Katie asked. That's not it. Unhappy? No. Worried? Yes. Becoming famous meant more people would pick fights with him. Claude would have a hard time with just his mediocre skills. Overall, Forestier as weak as it is, I might have to show him sometime that there would always be someone better than him. There were many skilled fighters in Ponsonia as a result of continuous clashes with Quinbland. Forestier, on the other hand, had not seen war in a long time. That could explain the power struggle within the allied nations. Because of this, adventurers in Forestier were also weaker overall. They considered Claude, who only had 4 points on sword, to be one of the strongest. Yet in among Ponsonia's knights, he would only be on the same level as the commanding officers. How's Luca? Hikaru asked. She's looking ahead and making personal connections in Jarazak. Impressive. I guess I didn't have to worry about a thing. As for Ivan, I'm sure he's fine. Hikaru said. That's just mean. He's probably sparring alongside Claude, Alexei, and Professor Mikhail anyway. What about Catherine? Lavia cut in. She was worried about her reading companion. She's back in Europa. It's the same as when the Student Alliance was brought up. They're just waiting to see how things would turn out. I think she's trying her best not to stand out. Sylvester is also back in Zubura, right? Hikaru asked. Katie nodded. It's been proclaimed that Sylvester will take over as head of the family after graduation. He makes his official debut into the world of politics and high society this winter. Oh, and League was also named as successor to the Green Ogre clan. He already made his debut too. I see. League seemed to be aimlessly wandering about, his mind unreadable, but deep inside, he had a vision of Forestier 100 years from now. He would have to fight Sylvester on the surface, but this is League we're talking about. I'm sure they'll work together behind the scenes and achieve something grand. Now it's my turn to ask questions. Katie said. Where'd you get that dragon stone? Katie asked, leaning forward. I saw that question coming. Anyway, no comment. HMPH. She looked disappointed, but seemed to have expected the answer. Can you give it to me, then? Do you have a use for it? A lot. You can refine a dragon stone to make spirit magic stones. It should be enough to power Scholazard's magic streetlights for years. Wow. Really? Yup, really. Most magic streetlights, even magic lamps, used spirit magic stones as source of power. When dusk came, the lamplighter would light the streetlights one by one and turn them off in the morning. On Earth, back when electricity was still undeveloped, lamplighters turned gas lights on and off too. I've actually been thinking a lot about using huge spirit magic stones to operate magic streetlights all at once. Just turn them on and off from one spot and watch them all light up and go dim. Wouldn't that be quite the spectacular view? Ah, yes. Katie was practically spraying the words out. Hikaru leaned back a little, pulling his teacup away. She thought the idea was revolutionary, but it was a familiar sight in Japan. Is there any other way to use the Dragonstone? Like turning it into a weapon or something? A weapon? Katie cocked her head, racking her brain. She didn't expect Hikaru to be thinking about making a weapon out of it. It's too big for a weapon. What do you mean? If you wanted on a staff that amplifies magical power, then you're out of luck. A rod that can support that kind of stone does not exist. Embedding it into swords to make magic swords is not an option either. There's no metal that can support a stone that big. Can you explain more specifically what you mean by can't support? The materials will probably melt the moment you activate spells with it. Oh, it would end up being a single-use weapon, but using it for magic streetlights is fine? It's not like we'll use it to fight. It should be possible to stabilize it by releasing just the right amount of power. I see. Magic items sure are complex, Hikaru thought. Roland's knowledge was quite profound as well, but it had completely different applications than that of Katie's. One thing, Katie exclaimed, slamming her hand on the table. You can't just leave it out in the open like that. Just a little bit of mana can cause the power contained in the stone to go berserk and burn everything in the immediate vicinity. You could have said that earlier. A chill ran down Hikaru's spine. All this time, he'd been keeping a bomb in his bedroom. I guess if there's no other options, I can feed it to Drake. He could just give it to Katie so she could study it. But people might ask her where she got it. Eventually, she'd give in and expose Hikaru. All his effort in secretly killing the Earth Dragon back in Unelporten would be for nothing. Then again, I only did that so people wouldn't find out about Lavia. But now that no one's after her anymore, I guess it's okay. What would happen if the public found out I killed the dragon? The whole continent reeked of war. Some country might have their eye on him and force him to join battles. No way in hell. Laying low is definitely the best option. Hikaru, you have a lot of magic rocks too. What are you gonna do with those? You can have them if you want. Having a few magic rocks shouldn't be that strange. Really? Thank you. Giving her the magic rocks they gathered back at the underground dungeon was a small price to pay for the bullets she created for the revolver. Katie was happy as magic rocks were frequently used in alchemic experiments. Apparently, procuring materials during winter was difficult, since adventurers didn't work and stores only had few stocks. Oh, that's right. There's something I want to tell you too, Katie said, her expression dead serious. Have you heard the words uniter and separatist? Hikaru and Lavia exchanged glances. Nope. Never heard of it. I see. Apparently there's something strange going on within the allied nations. I received word from Kotobi's king that there's a faction bent on ruining the mass wedding this spring. As always, the store's door was a little dirty. She could hear the clamor from beyond it. Drake wrapped around her neck. Paula opened the door. Ha ha ha, I win again. Damn it. You probably cheated, didn't you? It's hard to run a business when it's this cold. You moron. Business my ass. You've been drinking since morning. Voices of drunk men filled the establishment. The smell of alcohol drifted in the air. Just come in if you want to. It's too cold with the door open. Oh, okay. Paula closed the door behind her and strolled across the tavern. The men didn't pay her any attention as she headed straight for the counter and talked to the owner. Excuse me. Oh, if I remember correctly, you're Hikaru's friend. The master knew Paula. No wonder of course, as this was where Hikaru frequently came for lunch. 3 cheers for booze. Can I get a job here? Paula said, bowing her head. The master looked at her, blinking incessantly. Sure. Well, you can start right away. Take this food to the corner table over there. What? She didn't expect an answer right away, much less starting immediately. Come on. Now, before the food gets cold. Why yes, sir. Paula took the plate of pasta to the customer. And so, Paula got her job right away. She left Drake and her coat in the waiting room. A bandana and an apron, and the tavern got itself a new waitress. All right. Let's do this. I gotta make money without relying on Hikaru-sama. Paula returned back outside all fired up. Paula, can you clean that table? Oh, okay. Paula, take the order please. Why yes, sir. Paula, give these sausages to that red-faced man. Right away. Who? Every man's face in the tavern were red from drinking. Oh, that's mine. No, it's not. You idiot. It's mine. Hell no. I've been waiting for those sausages for 2 hours. Actually, sausage is not included in today's menu. The master said. The men erupted into laughter. You, take it easy, Paula. You can get back to work after eating that. The master noticed that she was putting too much effort into her job. She greatly appreciated the concern. The men started demanding sausages too, so it was added to the menu in a rush. As she ate in the waiting room with Drake, she could feel energy welling up inside her. So, where's Hikaru? The master asked as Paula returned back outside. He's back in Scholars'd. I see. Can you tell him to drop by? I will. He wants to see Hikaru too. Paula's mouth curved into a smile. I'm glad this place is open. A voice said. The door to the tavern opened and 2 girls came in, both wearing hooded cloaks of fine quality. They clearly didn't belong in a place like this. One of them removed her hood and Paula quickly recognized who she was. Let's have something warm to drink. What do you want, Luca? Catherine asked. Luca shook her head, a glum look on her face. Paula hadn't actually met Luca and Catherine before. She only arrived in Scholars'd after the chaos in Unelporten was dealt with. By that time, Luca and Catherine were already attending the foundation ceremony and hadn't come back to Scholars'd ever since. But it was clear that 2 girls were here in this tavern. Sure, the food might be great, but definitely not the place for students to hang out in. Paula knew that the Student Alliance usually gathered here. Combine that with one of the girls having bluish skin and their fine cloaks. It didn't take long for Paula to realize who they were. Who are you? Catherine asked. She was eyeing Paula warily. The pub didn't have waitresses when they left Scholars'd. I am a member of Hikaru-sama's party. Paula replied. The 2 girls looked surprised. Hikaru is here in Scholars'd. 8 years. He arrived the day before yesterday. Did something happen? Isn't the wedding this spring? SHH. Catherine held her forefinger to her mouth and looked around. At that point, Paula realized that some kind of trouble occurred. The Green Ogre clan practically controlled Romania. League Romania, the eldest son of the head of the family, Billion Romania, and recognized as the successor to his father, was just about to finish his trip that spanned a few days. We're finally here. A strong cold wind passed by as League stepped out of the carriage. Jarazak was located on the northernmost part of Forestia. Even in the middle of the day, thick clouds covered the skies, making the surroundings darker than normal. Welcome. We're glad to have you. The mansion's door opened and dazzling light spilled from within. The one who greeted League was none other than Professor Mikhail. It's been a while, sir. You don't need to be so polite. I cannot do that. You're here as a representative of the Green Ogre clan. The king, Alexei von Jarazak, ordered me to give you the red carpet treatment. Mikhail put his arm around League and led him inside, closing the door behind him. Warm air filled the mansion. It felt like a thin sheet of ice stuck to League's face melted. The walls were thick, the door soundproof. From the proper ventilation, he could sense just how wise these people were, able to live in frigid lands. Can you handle Jarazak's cold weather, Sir League? I just have to think of my job as the clan's representative and I'll be fine. I'd like to get things done immediately. Can I see Lord Alexei now? Of course. I'll go call him now. Mikhail said. Please see Sir League to the reception room. He ordered the servants. Their relationship right now was not that of a professor and a student, but as 2 parties representing their own nation. Professor Mikhail sure is thorough. I have to focus. After having the Student Alliance and mass wedding approved at the foundation ceremony, League tried his best not to get in touch with the other members. He didn't want his father finding out about his plans. 4 months had passed since then, and he met many people in the capital for Assad, inheriting his father's personal connections and creating one himself. He didn't realize it at first, but he was excited to finally see the other members of the Student Alliance. He even expected Mikhail to treat him like they were in the academy. "I have people watching me right now." The servants accompanying him worked for his father. "Who knows what they'll tell him? I can't give them an opportunity." Leek was led to the reception room. Handing his coat to a servant, he sat down on the sofa. He then ordered the men accompanying him to leave the room. They would most likely sort their luggage, since they planned to stay here for the night. He breathed a sigh. Finally alone. "Leek." The door slammed open, causing Leek to jump to his feet. What? "Long time no see, man. It feels like forever since we saw each other in the academy." "Oh, Ivan." "And Claude?" "Ivan, Jarazak's representative in the Student Alliance," and Claude entered the room. Claude's a hard Kiri, who despite being a spirit elf, looked exactly like his age suggested. The man who was supposed to be married this coming spring. Hey there. But his eyes were swollen, a clear sign that someone beat him up. What happened to you?" "Well, you see." Ivan seemed to hesitate. Claude heaved a deep sigh. "Luca ran away, and then Lord Alexei beat me up. He said I should keep this look for a while." "What in the world happened?" Leek asked. Forgetting that he was here as Romania's representative, he quickly realized his mistake and felt relieved that his attendants weren't in the room. Claude looked at Ivan, who only gave a shrug. "Actually." So in short, it became known that Claude was as skilled as Alexei with the sword. After becoming famous, he grew arrogant and neglected Luca. Hikaru said, holding his right palm on his forehead. They were in Hikaru's apartment. Paula came to the academy to pick them up. Her face flushed, so Hikaru and Lavia returned in a hurry. They chose the apartment since the topic was not something that could be talked about in the open. "That idiot." Hikaru let out a groan. Catherine visited Jarazak to attend to some family business. Also, she was a member of the Student Alliance. After seeing Luca all sad and alone, she learned about the situation and snapped. She then dragged Luca with her all the way to Scholazad. "But isn't it dangerous for Luca to be out of Jarazak?" Lavia asked. "I thought the plan was to let her stay there until right before the wedding." "I know, but I don't think any potential assassins were aware. They probably didn't even notice my arrival and only learned about us leaving long after we left." "Really?" "Jarazak is especially cold. People drink for long hours." Jarazak's alcohol consumption increased during winter season, mostly because of tradition, but it also helped the body overcome the cold. Hikaru glanced at Luca. She was completely silent, her eyes on the floor. "What do you think?" Hikaru asked Luca. "Do you really think getting away from Claude was the right choice?" From Hikaru's perspective, Claude was not completely in the wrong. For the most part, it was his fault, but it felt like Luca was acting differently than usual. "I don't know. I just didn't expect for things to get this big," she answered. "By that, you mean? There are plays about us. Over 1,000 couples applied for the wedding. Almost every day, women in Jarazak pester me, asking me questions. I don't even have the time to think about the future." "I see." Hikaru nodded. Prenuptial doubts. The people around her and Claude's attitude made it worse. "In that case, Luca, I think there's only one thing you can do." "What's that?" Luca stared back at Hikaru like a believer seeking salvation. "You should confront Claude. Only he can solve your problems and he's the one you'll spend the rest of your life with." "Let's go to Jarazak immediately," Hikaru said as he got up on his feet. Leek sat facing Ivan and Claude, his comrades in arms who survived the tumultuous Foundation anniversary with him. Months had passed, it was now a new year, and they were finally reunited, but now was not the time to rejoice. "I see." League said. I have a general idea of the situation now. You're the only one in Jarazak who can cross swords with Lord Alexei, and even the subject of rumors all throughout Forestia. Your fame made plenty of ladies approach you. Instead of turning them all down, you flirted with. I didn't flirt with them. It's just women in Jarazak are too aggressive. Claude replied. I was having trouble turning them all down. I'm quite sure Luca saw it as flirting. Otherwise, she wouldn't have put herself in danger by leaving the safety of Jarazak. Luca's mother, the ruler of Ludenshire, wanted her dead. She would rather kill her own daughter than hand her over to Claude. It showed just how much Kirill and Ludenshire despised each other. League actually received information that a faction from Ludenshire were working to try and snatch Luca away. Fortunately, they didn't have much connections in Jarazak, and the deep snow limited entry to Jarazak, so the country knew who came and entered. I know how he feels, Ivan said. Among the 7 nations, the women in Jarazak are rather unique. They support Jarazak's martial arts from behind the scenes and always stay 1 or 2 steps behind so they don't stand out more than the men. But when it comes to asking people out, they're fierce. They say a Jarazak woman's worth is determined by the man she's with. For a pampered young man who only knew about Kirill and Skolazid, it might seem enticing. I am not pampered, Claude protested. Claude, League muttered, staring at him with eyes full of disdain. League, could you please stop looking at me like that? I always remained faithful to Luca. I never crossed any line. You might be telling the truth, but it still doesn't change the fact that we have an awful situation in our hands. No wonder Lord Alexei hit you. I'm sorry, okay? I regret my actions. Trust me, I do want to talk to Luca. But everything changed when Catherine arrived. Lady Catherine? A ripple formed in League's heart that was otherwise usually calm. A moody girl from Europa, she reviewed the Student Alliance's bylaws. League actually thought of asking Hikaru for help, but the latter had to go to Nunelporten, so Catherine took the job instead. League met her at the Foundation anniversary. While dancing, she gave her comments on the bylaws. But since they weren't of equal status, League being the next head of his clan while Catherine was only an ordinary girl from Europa, they drew envious looks from the ladies. By Catherine's suggestion, League dumped her harshly, humiliating her. League still couldn't forget how she looked back then. She stood tall and never pandered to anyone. She was completely different from the women around him. Catherine probably egged her on and they both left Jarazak. Claude said. Now we have no idea where to find them. If Luca was alone, we could probably narrow down her location. They went to Skolazid. League said. Huh? How can you be so sure? You said Lady Catherine egged her on. But she has no reason to do that. There's meaning to her actions. I'm sure she would try to bring the situation under control. What? How could you trust her that much? There's only a few options she could take to bring you back to your senses. Staying in Jarazak is foolish. Do you know that Ludenshire is trying to kill Luca? Did you consider that perhaps the women after you wants to sell her out to Ludenshire? Wah! Claude turned pale, while Ivan's expression became serious. The situation's that bad? Claude, Luca was almost killed once before. She barely managed to escape death because Hikaru asked some adventurers for help. Look at you. You got stronger and you let it get to your head. The more recognition you got, the more Luca thought you could live without her. You. Claude was as pale as a sheet, his head hung low. I'm going after Luca. I'm heading to Skolazid right now, he declared, getting up quickly like a spring. You finally reached that conclusion. The door opened, revealing a huge vicious-looking man over 2 meters tall, his frizzly hair tied to the back. It was none other than Alexei von Jaltzer Jarazak, the man who stood on top of Jarazak and owner of this mansion that was once a castle. He brought with him Luca's personal attendant, the old lady, who was also under his protection. Alexei learned about the situation from her, prompting him to teach Claude a lesson. Go on, tell him. Granny. Thank you, great king of Jarzak. The old lady said. The princess may appear tough, but she has many things on her mind. Needless to say, it is her long-cherished wish to be married to the man she loves, but she feels she's causing trouble to a lot of people. Claude listened to her with a sorrowful look. She always thought being married to Lord Claude was nothing but a pipe dream. While she is happy that her dream is becoming a reality, she's also worried. She wanted to seriously talk about the future this winter. Please, Lord Claude, I ask that you confront this issue together with her. I understand. I swear I will see Luca and talk things together with her. Claude vowed, his right fist on his chest. I will never make her feel sad ever again. He didn't sound like he was making excuses anymore. He finally came to his senses. Smiling, Alexei turned to League. So, what brings the son of Billion here? Romania is the one carrying out operations relating to the mass wedding. I came here to discuss provision of necessities. I'm still the son of Billion, huh? League thought. It felt like Claude beat him to the chase of being recognized as a full-fledged man by the representative of Jarzak. Right now, League was working on his first job as Billion's successor, the mass wedding. It was only natural for Romania, the greatest of the 7 nations, to take over the task. Unlike Kirill and Ludenshire, they didn't have any interest in this event. Of course, League also took this as an opportunity to see the other members of the Student Alliance. You have the documents, right? Hand them over. Yes, sir. League handed the materials procurement documents to Alexei. The man signed them without even glancing at the contents. Are you sure about this, sir? I'm sure everything's perfect anyway. That patronizing look in your eyes reminds me of the old Billion. You couldn't point out anything wrong with his projects. If you complained a bit, he'd come up with reasons to rebut you. Man, he was a pain. My father. For a while, League was staring blankly at nothing. Billion was like the boss of the underworld, while Alexei was the leader of a gang. League suddenly realized they were once young too. I'm just like my father. He never even considered it. Perhaps my father also once thought about uniting the 7 nations? I believe that's business taken care of. Alexei said. Sorry to bother you, son of Billion, but could you accompany Claude? He's an important friend of yours. Isn't he? Me? It's too dangerous for Claude to go alone, and we can't really count on Ivan. Hey, boss, why don't you trust me? You moron. You were with Claude the whole time and you didn't do anything. You don't get to speak. You're to blame for this too. I'll work you hard until Luca comes back. Eek. Ivan turned pale. Please teach me a lesson again once we're back, sir. Claude said. Damn right I will. Now quit your dilly-dallying and get a move on. We have some disturbing information. Mikhail barged into the room. You were right, boss. Professor said. We can't find the Fedor gang who's supposed to be somewhere near the border. As suspected, they're working with Ludenshire. What do you mean, Professor? Claude asked. The Fedor gang are a bunch of notorious scoundrels. They don't care if it's snowing or if there's a blizzard, they'll strike anywhere. We're having difficulty dealing with them as they're elusive. We received word that they were acting strangely, so we looked into them and found out that they made a move at the same time that Luca and Catherine left Jarzak. So they followed Luca? No doubt about it. There were rumors that they were working with Ludenshire, and this proves it. They were probably spying on this mansion and found out that Luca left. Claude, prepare for your journey at once. Alexei ordered in a dignified voice. Your destination, Scholazard. I doubt you'd lose to anyone, but fighting while protecting Luca will be difficult. Lord Claude, please keep the princess safe. The old lady said. Understood. Claude replied and dashed out of the room. Mikhail. Ivan, I know, we will back him up. The professor said. All right. I'm going to. Ivan was happy he didn't have to suffer under his boss. Alexei watched the two go in astonishment. Ivan in particular walked fast before the boss could change his mind. Son of Billion, forget what I said. Now that a bunch of rascals is involved, we can't have you be in danger. Leek thought about it for a bit. What would my father do? What? I think my father would have taken caution in this situation. When the time comes to put your life on the line, you must do so. I'll go as well. I can't be scared of a bunch of lowly thugs. I will soon be Romania's representative. After all. Leek smiled and left the room to order his men to prepare for the journey. Alexei watched him go with eyes wide open. No, Billion would have prioritized his safety and give orders from the sidelines. Well, what do you know? They're completely different, after all. And so Leek left Alexei's mansion not long after he arrived. He wasn't worried if Catherine and Luca made it to Scholazid. They had the academy to keep themselves safe. He didn't know just how awful the Fedor gang was, but he believed they wouldn't start a fight in the middle of town. What Leek didn't know was Catherine and Luca arrived safely in Scholazid and were on their way back to Jarazak with Hikaru. The Fedor gang was a group of bandits led by a man named Fedor, and were known for being elusive. Robbery was their main business, but they would not hesitate to resort to kidnapping, smuggling, or even jailbreaking, if it meant money. But except under extreme circumstances, they didn't commit murder, as that would result in the authorities searching for them relentlessly, compromising their elusiveness. They committed robberies in urban places. Normally, they'd hide in the city and gather around using secret codes. The gang had roots mostly in the major cities of Jarazak. Is everyone here? Fedor asked. He was a well-dressed man about 170 centimeters tall. Yes, sir. A man dressed in a craftsman attire answered. The other 10 or so men wore normal commoner clothes, while some had hunter attires on. Their specialty was disguising and makeup. Mikhail's men who were after the gang were skilled as well, but the bandits planned to completely transform themselves before making their next move. We've discussed the plan before, and nothing's changed. After capturing the target, we'll throw them into our hideout until delivery to Ludensha. They say we can kill her, but we want to avoid doing the dirty work as much as possible. Best of all, the hate is directed to Ludensha. The fire from the hearth was the only source of light in the room. All the men nodded and were about to move when a news came. Boss, our scout just returned. The one we sent to Scholazid? Yeah. Apparently, the target left Scholazid and is heading here in Raidzad. What? The gang was staying in a suburban city called Raidzad, the closest city to Scholazid. Anyone going to Jarazak from Scholazid would pass through here. The plan was to enter Scholazid by the end of the day. They're heading back to Jarazak. Huh? That's perfect, then. Fedor considered this a golden opportunity. All right. We move at midnight. They paid for a large room and a single room. Needless to say, Hikaru would take the single room with Drake, and the girls, Lavia, Paula, Catherine, and Luca, would stay in the large room. After having dinner, the girls returned to their room and were getting ready to sleep. There were 4 beds in the room, each one of them sitting on theirs. Luca, what are you planning to do once you see Claude? Lavia asked, embracing a pillow. Sitting at the edge of her bed, Luca cast her eyes down. I don't know. I was really happy about the marriage, but now I'm starting to have doubts. Strange, isn't it? I dragged everyone into trouble. It's not your fault, Catherine said, sitting beside Luca, not hiding her anger towards Claude. The matter at hand seemed to have deepened their friendship. This is all Claude's fault for getting too cocky. Was he really acting that strange? Lavia asked. Yeah, I'm sure you'll get pissed too if you saw that guy. When I arrived at the mansion, I spotted him with 3 women. Oh, Claude's reputation was taking a nosedive. By the way, what is up with you? Catherine asked Lavia this time. Me? Isn't Hikaru your boyfriend? So why? Catherine's eyes darted at Paula. She was taken aback, not expecting it. How could he add another girl to your party? Hikaru-sama and I don't have that kind of relationship. What? The way you call him. Did he tell you to so he could stroke his own ego? That's not true. I just look up to him. Hikaru's just as bad. How dare he make eyes at other girls when he already has Lavia? Catherine was really heating up. Calm down. I'm sorry, Lavia. I know you're the one suffering the most. No. You're wrong. I'm happy to have Paula by my side. Lavia. There was pity in Catherine's voice. Lavia. Paula felt glad. All right. I got it. Catherine stood up. Where are you going? Isn't it obvious? I'll go get Hikaru and interrogate him. Please don't. Paula protested. Lavia stayed calm. Hikaru's not in his room. What? Why? It's already late. He said he had something to do and won't be back until morning. Lavia knew that when Hikaru said he had something to do in the middle of the night, it meant taking care of any trouble that might befall them. Something he is to do. And he won't be back until morning. Imagining nasty things, Catherine's face turned beet red. Needless to say, she was hugely mistaken. The room was dark. The fire in the hearth the only source of light. As the flames were dying, Fedor tossed some more wood. Then he heard footsteps. That was fast. Did you finish the job? He glanced at the entrance, but he couldn't see well in the dark. However, Fedor was sure of one thing. No one among his men wore a silver mask. Who the fuck are you? No need to introduce myself. I took out all your men. 6 main guys and 3 backups. Surprisingly few. Warily stepping away from the fireplace, Fedor slowly reached for the dagger in his coat. He's lying. The man thought. The geese moved out just half an hour ago. Taking them all out in such a short amount of time is impossible. The only one who can do that is someone who knows everything about our plan, or one with detection abilities who could pinpoint the exact locations of my men. The fact that he knows their exact number means someone betrayed us. Fedor thought one of his men turned traitor and divulged information about their operation to this stupid masked bastard. They must have split up and this guy came here to stop me from escaping. Ha ha ha. Too bad. You got one thing wrong. I want to know what you're after. The masked person asked, seemingly unaware of the thoughts running through Fedor's mind. Why do you want to kidnap Luca Lord Grad Ludenshire? Hey. Isn't it obvious? We're going to sell her. So she's got quite the bounty on her head. But your men didn't sound satisfied with just abducting her. They planned to assault her as well. Damn it. I told them we have to keep her alive. I guess they thought they could do anything as long as she lives. Okay, I get it. The masked guy nodded for some reason. You get what? So you approve of your men's actions. Ha 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 ha. Do you have any idea who we are? We're the Fedor gang. One look and we can silence crying kids. More like you're a bunch of half-wits who can only make kids cry. Fedor's eyes narrowed. Provoking me was a bad move. You seem to be mistaken. Mistaken about what? Did you think subduing all my men will make me surrender without a fight? Think again. I, Fedor, am the leader of the gang, which means I'm the strongest of them all. Fedor dashed forward, quickly closing the distance between him and the masked guy. From his pocket, he drew a dagger. The masked guy leapt to the side to dodge the thrust. Ha, idiot. A huge movement was just what Fedor was waiting for. Once you run, you're a sitting duck. Fedor specialized in throwing. He threw his dagger towards the direction the masked guy jumped to. He was skilled and never missed his mark. What? But he stopped before he could let go of his weapon. There was no one there. He quickly surveyed his surroundings, but he couldn't feel anyone's presence in the room. He almost wondered if he was imagining things. How? How did I disappear? Fedor heard the voice come from right behind him. He quickly turned around, but found no one. Damn it, where the hell are you? Silence. It must be magic. In that case, I have this. I implore you, air spirits, find the pitiful fool hiding in the shadows. Touching a ring on his right hand, Fedor chanted the spell. The ring flashed. Nothing? The man bought this magic item called a detection ring for a hefty sum. He used it to find infiltrators in their hideouts or to search for hidden rooms. It never failed him before. Is that an item used to find someone hiding with stealth? Fedor yelped once again. The voice came from directly behind him. And just like before, there was no one there. A demon. You're a demon, aren't you? That explains the creepy mask. I actually like this mask. Anyway, I just wanted to find out the truth. Knowing that Ludenshire is involved in all this is more than enough. There you are. Without looking, the man hurled his dagger towards the direction of the voice, but alas, it hit no one and instead stuck itself into a cupboard. Ha! Ha! Ha ha ha! Beads of sweat appeared on Fedor's forehead. In that case, he reached for his ring, and screamed. A blade had pierced his hand. Whoa! Whoa! Were you planning to use an offensive spell this time? Or perhaps a smoke screen? You were thinking of escaping while you had the chance, but you're not going anywhere. Why, you bastard? You're aware that I can kill you if I really want to, right? The mask was right before him, its mouth curved into a smile. A demon. He's a demon in a man's clothing. I didn't really plan to do more experiments, but might as well. You'll be my test subject. If you stay put, I'll hand you over to the authorities alive. Experiment. A demon's experiment. He says he'll keep me alive, but I'm sure he'll make me suffer a fate worse than death. Color left Fedor's face and he collapsed. Huh? He's out cold? A while later, the sound of a boy sighing in disappointment came from the room. Fedor never realized that his opponent was just a young boy. During winter in Forestia, people traveled using long-haired horses because of the snow and cold. Short and stout, these creatures moved relatively slower, but could travel longer distances. League and Claude used the same type of horse on their journey from Jarazak to Skolazid. The driver, Mikhail, wore thick fur coat. Their carriages were linked, with Claude and other Jarazak men on the leading vehicle, while League and his attendants rode on the second one. League was here as a delegate of Romania. He couldn't be seen getting along well with Claude out in public. Alexei deployed his troops as well, but since they still had to prepare, they would be a day late. The carriage Claude and Ivan rode in was wrapped in silence, the only sound coming from the rocking of the vehicle as it treaded across snow-covered roads. The outside was deadly quiet. It was morning. They left as soon as dawn broke today as well. Fatigue was starting to build up from following a very strict schedule. Ivan, Mikhail called. I can see Radzid now. Nice. Radzid was only about a day's travel away from Skolazid. Claude, if all goes well, we might arrive in Skolazid by the end of the day, Ivan said. You know what you have to do, right? Make sure you talk to Luca. I know. Claude answered with a worried look. What the? The gate to Radzid is closed. What do you mean, Professor? Ivan got up from his seat and opened the window to the driver's seat. He scowled as the chill from outside came rushing in. 6 horses galloped at full speed over the snowy road. Mikhail was staring ahead, pointing at the stone wall surrounding Radzid. The gate leading into town was indeed closed, which was strange, as it should be open during daytime. As the carriages got closer to Radzid, the 3-meter-tall gate's side door opened and a guard came out. Stop right there. As Mikhail slowed the horses down, Ivan and Claude jumped down the carriage, fully armed. Why is the gate closed? Mikhail asked from atop his seat. We don't have enough men inside. We figured since it's snowing heavily anyway that no one would enter, so we closed the gate. You've got quite the company. Wait a minute. What do you mean you don't have enough men? What happened? Ha ha ha. Nothing bad. You look like you're from Jarazak. Did you know that the Fedor gang that's been wreaking havoc in Jarazak has been captured? There's too many of them. We needed more men to watch and interrogate them. What did you say? Mikhail was at a loss for words. Claude approached the guard. What about Luca? Is she safe? Luca? Who? Calm down, Claude. Mikhail said. Sorry for the late introduction, but I'm Mikhail, a professor in Skolazid, and I serve the head of Jarazak. Alexei von Jaltser-Jarzak, please tell me more about the situation. I'm sure the questioning will go faster with the information I have about the Fedor gang as well. I apologize for any rude behavior. We appreciate the offer, Sir Mikhail. Please come in. I'll call the commander and the governor. The party entered Raidzud. Mikhail headed to the station, while Claude and the others looked for an inn just in case. Claude and the guys first entered the biggest hotel in town and happened upon someone in the lobby, a boy with black hair and black eyes. Oh, if it isn't Claude. Hikaru, what are you doing here? Oh, Ivan and League are with you too. Are those League's attendants? Claude's mouth hung open, but Hikaru simply ignored it. I see. League said, his brows furrowed. I get it now. You were the one behind it, weren't you, Hikaru? I'm talking about the Fedor gang. Hikaru smiled. You make it sound like I did something bad. It was indeed Hikaru who repelled the Fedor gang's attack. It was only natural that the town was in an uproar since he tied the bandits up and left them on the streets. Hikaru took care of all of Fedor's men by surprise. Striking with stealth on carried an assassination buff, so he had to actually be careful not to kill any of them. He challenged Fedor up front so he could gain some experience. As a matter of fact, he'd been doing the same thing when hunting bandits. Unfortunately, Fedor was hardly a good opponent, with only 3 points max on throwing. What do you mean Hikaru did it? Please explain things clearly. Claude said. Yeah. Claude and I have no idea what's going on. Ivan added. Well, before that. Hikaru raised his thumb and pointed behind him. Don't you have some other things to talk about? 4 ladies sat around a table in the lounge. Catherine got up her seat and took a step forward, arms folded. Luca was standing beside her. Luca. Claude came to his senses, glanced at Hikaru and nodded with a determined look on his face. He walked through the lobby in long strides. Noticing the decisiveness in his steps, the other guests turned their attention to him. Claude entered the lounge and stopped 5 meters away from Luca, facing her. Luca. His voice echoed throughout the lounge. Even the employees stared at him. Not only the guests. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Claude, don't say a word. Claude raised his right hand, stopping Luca from saying anything. Please, listen to what I have to say first. He knelt down on his right knee. The people around stirred, surprised by the scene unfolding before them. Luca Lord Grad Ludenshire, my princess, I've sworn my love to you a number of times. The party where we first met, in the Academy's woods, on the streets of Scholazard. I remember all of them, but I'm a fool and made you worry. I deeply regret my actions, deeper than the snow in the northern regions. From how he fixed his gaze on the girl before him, head held up, it was clear he still had more to say, and the girl herself expected more. Luca, I am a sword that will cut open a future for you. Please take my hand and allow me to walk with you. I never got to say it since things got hectic, but please marry me this coming spring. Claude bowed and held out his right hand as though seeking salvation. Luca covered her mouth with her mouth, as if to stop all the emotions from flowing through, but she couldn't stop the tears from falling. Go, Catherine said. Luca nodded and took 1 step, and another and a third, before half running towards Claude. She then took his hand and kneeled down as well. Claude. Oh, my Claude. I'm sorry. I should have stayed strong, but fear had its grip on me. It's just... the life we're about to lead is not something anyone has ever experienced before. I don't know what to do. Claude raised his head, grimacing as he saw Luca's face overflowing with tears. I'm sorry. He pulled her head closer with his left hand, letting her bury her face in his chest, and rested his cheek on her head. I'm sorry. Claude said. It's fine. You don't need to apologize anymore. I'll make that the last one. Luca, please tell me. Will you marry me? Yes, she answered, sobbing. Ivan let out a deep breath and started clapping. Paula followed him as well, and then the guests, and even the employees. All of a sudden, The sound of applause reverberated throughout the hall. Catherine clapped as well, looking like she had no other choice. Luca and Claude? No way. The stars of the mass wedding? I've seen the plays a few times. Voices came from the onlookers. A new script might have just been born. Hikaru glanced at Lavia, who also looked at him. They smiled and clapped as well. Even after the couple's love had been reaffirmed, the excitement in the lounge still hadn't died down. So, what's plan, League? Hikaru approached League and asked in a whisper. What do you mean? You know what I mean. There's no way Ludenshaw will give up here. How many days do we have? Hikaru wanted to know how much time they had until Ludenshaw made their next move after they learned of the Fedor gang's failure. 3 days, at the soonest. That's not much. Ludenshaw is close from here. The Sly Fox should be preparing her forces already in case of any unlikely event. League was referring to none other than Luca's mother, the representative of Ludenshaw. Hikaru was a bit surprised to hear the name Sly Fox come out of his mouth so naturally. Sounds like a lot happened this winter. Hikaru said. Yes, I must say, you surprise me every time, and it's kind of frustrating. For the record, the Fedor gang is not that strong. You geese should see what it's like outside of Forestia. I can't help but believe you. You should send Roy to Einbeast. There's a King Selection tournament happening soon over there. I'll consider it. Roy, a Romanian studying the great sword under Professor Mikhail, was spending most of his time being around League recently. He should be getting worked hard like a servant in Romania right now. The guy himself asked for it, taking it as some sort of a training. So, how do we use our 3 days? Hikaru asked. League should be more familiar with Ludenshaw's movements. A few moments passed before he answered. Let's go to Scholarship. We should have the advantage in the academy. So we'll have to fight, huh? Most likely. They decided to stay in Scholarship until they could confirm that Luca was safe. By the time Mikhail returned from the station and met up with Claude, everything was over. The professor was surprised by how fast the problem was resolved. Well, Hikaru's here, so I guess it's understandable. Mikhail laughed heartily. He was in favor of moving to Scholarship as well. Hikaru, however, couldn't quite grasp why him being here was enough of an explanation for the professor. Hikaru and the others arrived in Scholarship by the end of the day. Mikhail, Claude, and Luca would be staying at the academy. Preparations for Ludenshaw's potential attack would begin tomorrow. The dorms would be a good place to stay at, but it's a small 2-story building, so it's not really suited for defending. They were gathered in a lecture hall, with Mikhail standing at the platform, while Hikaru, together with Drake, Lavia, Paula, Claude, Luca, and Ivan listened. League was not around as he had to discuss their next plans with his attendants. So are we staying at an ordinary inn, then? Ivan asked. Are you serious? We'll be even more defenseless. The academy can shelter Luca. There's a barrier around the place and people can only enter through the front, rear, and west gates. In that case, the dorm is better. Relying too much on the barrier might become our downfall. We must come up with a number of plans. A military personnel, Mikhail excelled at devising strategies. Hikaru listened attentively too. But we can use the dorm. The enemy will attack there first. A decoy, huh? Hikaru said. Mikhail nodded. We'll set up a binding magic item there. Reducing their numbers would be great for us. Professor, I don't have any objections about that. But where should Luca stay then? Claude asked. Let me ask you, then. Where would you make her stay? Let's see. A place where she could sleep. I guess the sleeping quarters in the admin building. The enemy would think of that as well. There's not a lot of places a person can sleep in. After all, this is all about outwitting your opponent. Think of a place where the enemy wouldn't even consider that someone would stay there. Does such a place even exist? It does. Hikaru, any ideas? I don't really want to say it. Oh? If you have something with mind, then please share it with us. Hikaru sighed. Lecture Building C. Bingo. Mikhail said with a smile. Lecture Building C was where Professor Milkrapes Van Kud taught her short sword class. To be more specific, classes started inside, but the actual lessons happened on the vacant lot out front. The reason being, Mil slept there after getting drunk. In an effort to reform the professor, Hikaru helped tidy up the place, but blankets and the like were still left inside, making it a good enough location for Luca to stay at. They would have to think about food and baths, though. Moreover, Mil basically made the place her own, so the academy might not even mind if they turned it into a fort. Mikhail sure knows his stuff, Hikaru thought. But why am I the one doing this? Hikaru trudged towards Lecture Building C. Mikhail asked him to check if the place was safe since he was familiar with it. In fact, no one else but him knew what it was like inside. He even knew the place better than Mil. Unfortunately, Hikaru stepped out of the building. It would be much faster to cut through the front yard, but even though it wasn't snowing, the cold breeze made him shiver. Ugh. So cold. Times like this, he was grateful he had Drake with him. Hikaru, something strange. Drake, who was always asleep besides eating time, woke up, creating an opening for the chill to get to Hikaru's neck. Why are you up? You know you have to stay put when we're outside. So cold. What? I'm doing you a favor by coming with you despite the cold. What's more, I can't even get any mana from you. Man, I didn't know scarves complained and removed themselves from one's neck. Am I just a scarf to you? You've been treating me poorly lately. Freeloaders who only eat and sleep have no right to speak. So mean. Wait. I said there's something strange. Drake's persistence made Hikaru think that maybe something was wrong. What's up? But the Draken's answer was not what he expected. It feels like there's not a lot of spirits around. Spirits? You mean the ones that are summoned when casting magic? Yup. Hikaru knew spirits were beings that filled the world, although invisible to the naked eye. The only time humans could sense their presence was when causing supernatural phenomena through spirit magic. Both mana and spirits were things that didn't exist back on Earth. Can spirits even fluctuate in numbers? Of course. They decrease in number the more humans use spirit magic. Are you serious? What happens if there's not a lot of them? Things go back to normal after some time. Oh, I see. Don't scare me like that. Wait, if they return to normal, why is there only few of them here? Like I said, it's strange. According to Drake, he felt like the number of spirits was lower than usual ever since they entered Forestia. While fewer spirits didn't really pose any problems, if the number dropped very low, people wouldn't be able to use spirit magic for a while. Do you know why? Hikaru had a terrible sense of foreboding, slowly spreading in his mind like a drop of ink diffusing in a cup of water. Maybe someone's using a little too much spirit magic? That can't be right. Forestia's not known for using much spirit magic. Maybe someone or something is absorbing spirits. Absorb? You can convert them to mana that way. Oh, like spirit magic gems. The spirit magic gems that sorcerer utilized were formed by spirits attaching themselves to minerals. It might sound like spirits had actual forms, but in reality, they did not. Sorcery basically used these spirits like mana. An example of that was the ring that emitted fireballs, which used spirit magic gems. Okay, so people can't use spirit magic when there's not enough spirits around. But other than that, is there some sort of a serious problem? I don't know, but I just feel uncomfortable. I see. Huh? I thought you'd get mad at me for basing all of this on a gut feeling. What kind of person do you think I am? Intuition is important. Yes, they're important, especially instinct. Mine is telling me that it's strange too. Let's go see Professor Katie. Maybe she knows something. Hikaru hurried to the lecture building C and checked inside. Except for some dust, it looked exactly like before. So he then went straight to Katie's laboratory. His mana detection indicated she was alone as usual. Excuse me. As he opened the door, He saw a woman with a flame tattoo on her face wearing a creepy smile while rubbing her cheeks on a large magic rock. Piled up on the table were the magic rocks that Hikaru gave Katie. Hikaru closed the door, pretending he didn't see anything. What was that, Hikaru? That person's bad news. Don't say a word. Maybe that woman's the one absorbing all the spirits. SSH. That might actually be possible. But just don't mention it for now. Hikaru knocked first before entering this time. Oh, hello there, Hikaru. What brings you here? The table had been tidied up and Katie stood there with arms folded. Her face was flushed, her eyes teary, but Hikaru decided to ignore it. He felt relieved that Katie had shame like the average person. It's important to knock, I suppose. There are fewer spirits. Katie, who had listened to what Hikaru had to say, had her fist on her chin, pondering over the matter. Powerful mages can apparently sense the density of spirits around, but no one has quantified it before. You can measure the amount of spirits around us? Well, you can confirm their existence. You just have to use spirit magic. But density is a different matter. I know nothing about that. Let's say you fill a tank with water. You then take a cup to scoop some, but then the next instant, water will move towards that spot and you won't even know where you got the water from. So there's that many spirits. Based on my understanding, at least. Who told you that there's less spirits now? I haven't told her about Drake yet, Hikaru thought. This might be a good time to do so. Ah, you know about dragons, right? Like dragons, not dragons? Hikaru asked. Of course, didn't we confirm that in the ruins in Zubura? Holy mana and dragons are closely related. Owata Masaki, a Japanese man who got transported to this world, left behind a notebook which mentioned that dragons produced holy mana. Katie had browsed the contents of the notes. I wish I could observe holy mana myself. If only there was a dragon around, it could produce some for me. There's one right here. Hikaru grabbed the creature around his neck and held it out. What? It's a dragon, I said. This here is a dragon. Hello, I'm Drake. A young white dragon. What? Katie glanced at Hikaru and then at Drake and then at Hikaru. This repeated for about 20 times before she stopped. A dragon? Like a real dragon? Yup. That's me. The fake ones are the creatures you call dragons. Please keep that in mind. It talks. Hikaru told the confused Katie how he met the Drake. As her mind was still in chaos, Hikaru prepared some tea which Katie downed in one gulp, calming herself down. It was clear though that she hadn't calmed down as she just burned the inside of her mouth. She took one of the potions that were prepared in case of accidents during experiments, healing the burn, and then spoke. So you're saying the dragon, Drake? He's the one who sensed that there were less spirits around. Yes. Do you have any idea how that could happen? I kinda have a bad feeling about this. Let's see. Wait. Why are you still here in the academy? Didn't you say you were headed to Jarazak? Well, things happened, and I returned with Professor Mikhail, League, Claude, Ivan, and some others. There's a high chance that Ludenshaw will attack in 2 days. So we're planning to hole up in the academy. I think you could have shared something that important earlier. Well, the spirits decline and dragons are kinda important too. Yes, they are. Dragons are the most important thing right now. Told you. Sighing, Katie stood up. I'll go see Professor Mikhail. I could probably prepare some magic items for the upcoming battle, she said. As they walked towards the classroom Mikhail was in, Katie offered a few theories about the spirit's current situation. First, like what Drake said, there might be a creature out there absorbing the spirits. Never heard of it before. But monsters evolve in ways that humans can't imagine. So there's a monster sucking too many spirits that the overall density in Forestia decreased. I don't want to imagine what kind of creature that is. Second, it could be the work of spirit magic. Or no, sorcery. One powerful enough to use up a lot of spirits. Why sorcery, and not magic? Well, You need a practitioner for magic. Even the best mage in Forest Tier can't cast spells that'll use up that many spirits. What if 100 mages gathered together? That might affect their overall number, but they would have to keep using spirit magic non-stop. Plus spirit magic's effects manifest immediately and cause some supernatural phenomenon. But I haven't heard of any abnormal weather or cataclysms. In that case, what kind of sorcery could use so much spirits? Katie stopped in the middle of the hallway, her expression grim. A forbidden spell. A few types of sorceries are banned from being used. There are reasons for this, like an incomplete formula might cause a big explosion, or using it will greatly reduce the spirits around us, preventing mages from using spells for a time. Has there been a case like this before? You're asking if there's any signs of forbidden magic being used here? I don't think so. Not to my knowledge, at least. I see. Anyway, can you ask Drake if he could produce some holy mana? That's up to him. Well, Drake, with your help, I can make significant progress in my studies. Please. I'm begging you. Oh, okay. Drake replied. This woman is smothering me. Although a bit weirded out, the Draken reluctantly agreed to help Katie in her research. But first, they had to deal with Ludensha. Forbidden sorcery. Monster evolution. Something was bothering Hikaru. That's it. The subspecies of Earth Dragon in Unelporten. The giant rock viper in Zubura's Catford. They were celebrating in the guild after they took care of the monsters in Catford when Selise talked to him. Giant rock vipers are basically snakes, right? Don't you think it's strange how they attacked in groups? Selise didn't have any points in instinct, which meant her observation was based purely on logic. It was simply hard to believe that snakes would attack in groups considering their natural behavior. Then there's the abnormal outbreak at Unelporten. Have you thought that perhaps something strange is going on? Dragons and drakens came to mind. Besides the giant rock viper, there were other unique specimens as well, the giant rock lizard, a bipedal monster, and a double-necked viper which escaped into the forest. Can't snakes eventually evolve into dragons? Hikaru thought. It was possible that releasing the Draken in the underground dungeon triggered the awakening of the Earth Dragon. Or perhaps that wasn't the case. Maybe somewhere, dragons were starting to make a move. I'm back and I brought Professor Katie with me, Hikaru said as he entered the classroom. She said she'll help by providing magic items. Mikhail looked delighted to see Katie, but otherwise, the atmosphere in the room was serious. What's wrong? League's gone. Lavia answered. Gone? He's gone along with his attendants. We couldn't find their luggage and carriage, so I think they left the academy. He obviously left to protect himself, Claude said with a bitter expression. So he betrayed us? Absolutely not. League is officially a representative of Romania who acts on the interest of his own nation. If anything, we should be glad he accompanied us all the way here. But still, this is a critical moment. Reinforcements from Jarazak will arrive tomorrow. So it's not like we're at a complete disadvantage. Then at the smallest sign of danger, he's just gonna bail? He can't blame us if we think he turned his back. Ivan, don't say any more. This was all my fault in the first place, Claude said. If I didn't make Luca worry, we would still be in Jarazak. We would have been safe there. It's my fault that we ended up in Scholazid. Heavy silence descended in the room. I see. League doesn't have any logical reason to stay in the academy. He could explain coming with Claude since Alexei ordered him to do so. But what would he say to his father if he stayed and get involved in a battle against Ludensha? While everyone else wore serious looks, Hikaru smiled a little. This is League we're talking about here. You didn't just return to Romania without any plan, right? Inside the carriage, League sneezed. One of his attendants who was seated across him, the secretary, raised his eyebrows. My lord, did you catch a cold from traveling in this weather? What on earth was Jarazak's representative even thinking? Why would he tell you to go to Scholazid? He might have thought you could help as escorts on the trip. Lord Alexei seemed worried about Sir Claude and Sir Ivan. It was a real nuisance. Please don't say that. Without him, the mass wedding will fail. My father is thinking of turning this into a huge business. Yes, I suppose. League intended to show that he just wanted to make the business a success. Every one of his attendants, after all, worked for his father. He couldn't show that he was supporting the Student Alliance. So he left Scholars Ed immediately. He didn't share any detailed information about Ludenshire to his attendants. Claude has gotten quite strong. Professor Mikhail is there as well. But above all, Hikaru is present. I don't think you'll lose, but please do be careful. The carriage trudged towards the neighboring town. In the border of Ludenshire was a town where a group of 10 armed men stayed. Citizens didn't pay any attention to them, mostly because of their few numbers, and it was clear that Ludenshire's ruler herself ordered these troops to be stationed there. The group's leader was on edge. Enraged after receiving news of the Fedor gang's failure, he slammed his fist on the table. This is why I didn't want to hire a bunch of thugs to do the job. His subordinates stood in attention, unmoving. Their leader, Lark's Lord Grad Ludenshire, had the same family name as Luca, but he was merely adopted, and as such he was treated rather poorly. Believing that only he could protect himself, he devoted his time to training in the ways of the sword, eventually getting himself the position of a commanding officer. Now that, the man gazed outside the snowy, fogged-up window. He couldn't contain his anger, but he also knew that he had no other option but to fulfill the task at hand. Larks recalled the time he received the mission, eliminating Luca. Larks, you do feel indebted to me for adopting you, right? Of course. I have not once forgotten my debt of gratitude towards the Lord Grad family for taking me in. Every month when I go to church to pray, I express my gratitude. I don't really care about that. I just need you to show me how sincere you are. The woman, wearing heavy makeup to appear young, smirked. In his mind, Larks referred to her as a monster. A shiver went down his spine. For a moment, he thought he'd be asked to offer his body as an outlet for her sexual desires, but he knew Ludenshire's representative preferred young men, and she kept about a dozen of them around like pets. Larks was a muscular man in his late 20s with short blue hair. Had he not trained in swordsmanship, he would have probably gained a reputation in high society as a womanizer. Unfortunately, he had solid build, and scars marred his face. Part of him also wanted to train hard so he'd become someone completely opposite of what Luca's mother preferred in men and escape from her clutches. Kill Luca. Oh, that. Larks felt relieved. At the same time, he realized his end would be coming soon as well. The man knew how she worked behind the scenes ever since winter, trying to sabotage the upcoming mass wedding. But since Romania itself supported the event, aiming to profit off of it, Ludenshire couldn't say anything to cancel it. Normally, Kirill would disagree with the proposal, but not only did Queen Markido, Kirill's representative, expressed her support, she also taunted Ludenshire's haters, saying, "Do you want to join forces with Ludenshire to overturn the decision?" therefore silencing them. It was a clever move. Of course, this wasn't Markido's idea, but the Prime Minister's, the Queen's brains, Zofia Van Houten's. Why now? We finally have the means to destroy Kirill soon. Ludenshire's representative muttered. You idiot, Larks thought. This isn't the time to be fighting among ourselves. The whole continent is in a state of chaos. Even if he thought of her as a fool, she was still Ludenshire's representative. She finally arrived at a conclusion. If she can't stop the wedding, then she just has to kill Luca. If the princess was killed, Larks would be sentenced to death for ruining an important event that the Alliance worked hard to push. If he failed to kill Luca, her mother would not excuse his blunder. Either way, death would come knocking at his door soon. If I'm going to die anyway, I might as well test how strong I've become, Larks told himself. Fortunately, Jarazak had plenty of warriors, Alexei included. I'm sure they're not known as a nation that excelled in martial arts for nothing. They would be the perfect opponent in his last fight ever. Understood. Larks nodded with grim determination. Come on. Cheer up. You're ruining your looks. Don't worry about a thing. I heard there's this group of bandits called the Fedor Gang in Jarazak. Hire them for the job. Pardon? It's clear you're from Ludenshire. If you entered Jarazak, our nation could get into trouble. You don't even understand that? The woman said, as though mocking his resolve. If people found out he was the one who hired the Fedor Gang, he'd be charged with a crime and be known as a coward who refused to get his own hands dirty. Lark's mind went blank. He couldn't even choose his manner of death. By the time he came back to his senses, he realized he was alone and standing still, the woman already gone. Damn it! Larks didn't want his subordinates to accompany him on this mission. He wasn't even sure if he could call it one. It was more like suicide. Which is why he wanted to go see the Fedor Gang alone and end things once and for all on his own. But on the morning of his departure, 10 men, his subordinates, who had survived difficult training with him, showed up. We can't let you go alone, they said. They realized that Larks was embarking on a deadly mission. Only 10, but reliable soldiers. This was the reason why only a few men were stationed in town. Sir, did they mention anything about what to do if the Fedor Gang failed? One of the men asked. No, not really. In the first place, we didn't even expect the target to leave Jarazak. Does this mean you can do the work yourself now? A young man cut in. His name was Ray, the youngest of them all, who joined only this winter. He said he looked up to Larks. Larks himself thought he didn't really mean it, but his demeanor never changed. Ray even said he was prepared to throw his life away with Larks and join the mission. For Larks, these 10 men were his comrades. Do the work myself? Ludenshire soldiers can't enter Jarazak. But Scholazard is part of the central government. Yes, but we're clearly from Ludenshire. The central troops will definitely interfere. Let's disguise ourselves as adventurers, then. Larks pondered it over. Like Ray said, once they succeeded in their mission and their identities were revealed, it would be the central government who would come at them. Ludenshire's representative wouldn't even care. Princess Luca going out of Jarazak might actually be a blessing for us. So does that mean we'll go with your idea, Ray? We'll leave behind those who clearly look like soldiers, and wear disguises before heading to Scholazard. Our target will know that they're being hunted, so it'll be a short and decisive battle. Yes, sir. Lark's subordinates saluted in unison, then prepared for their journey to Scholazard. No one noticed Ray's smile behind their backs. Jarazak's Alexei sent 50 men raring to fight as reinforcements for Claude, but 10 days had passed since their arrival and nothing happened, resulting in boredom. These men, by nature, loved being rough. Hey, Ivan, we're heading out. Head out? Where? According to the Adventurers Guild, monsters are appearing at the outskirts. We're going hunting. What? You can't do that. It's fine. 30 men will stay behind. 3 groups of 10 men each will take turns keeping watch, so I'm sure it won't be a problem. Besides, there's only 10 of those guys in Ludenshire's border, right? Let me talk to Professor Mikhail first, at least. See you. Hey. The man escaped at the mention of Mikhail's name, presumably because he knew the professor would not allow it. Oh, well. Ivan muttered. We could have just returned to Jarazak than wait here for nothing too. What the man said was not wrong. There were only about 10 men stationed in Ludenshire's border. No matter how skilled the enemies were, Mikhail and the others would know if they entered Scholazard. They could buy time with the barrier around the academy as well. Losing was impossible. Mikhail wore a bitter expression when Ivan told him about the men going out, but let it slide anyway. Hikaru was not around. He was in the research building helping Katie out with her experiments. If Ivan told Hikaru about this, it might have had a different outcome altogether. Monsters coming out in this season? Wasn't that strange? Later that night, Claude couldn't sleep. He was in lecture building C. Sleep just wouldn't come when he thought about how Luca was just beyond the partitioning screen. It had been like this the past few days. If I told Ivan about this, I'm sure he'll say something like make a move on her and you should be able to sleep right after. Damn it. I want our relationship to stay pure until marriage. Claude held rather outdated mentality for this age. Being a spirit elf, his body would stop developing after reaching a certain age and would stay that way as he lived for more than 100 years. He knew death would separate him from Luca. They were both aware of that, so he wanted to cherish the moments they had together. Claude heaved a sigh and stepped outside. It was a clear, cloudless sky, and the moon sat high above. A chillier night than normal. It seemed like all creation would freeze over. Claude started swinging his sword in hopes that it would make him tired and fall asleep easier. Ivan's staying in the dorm with the men from Jarzak. I bet they're drinking. He suspected that those off-duty might be negligent in their jobs. Rather, he was just jealous of them for having it easy enough that they could drink every day. Hikaru is in his home, I guess. And Catherine's staying there too. Claude couldn't comprehend how Hikaru's own party member was staying in an inn. So Catherine, Lavia's friend, stayed in their apartment instead. I have no idea what that's all about. I'm grateful to Hikaru for making me stronger, though. He didn't know how, but his swordsmanship improved remarkably. He even had a 4-character class on his soul card, Sword Dancer. Claude didn't know, of course, that Hikaru configured his soul board, and as a result, the job class appeared, making him more skilled overall. He had nothing but gratitude for him. Phew. He stopped swinging. His body temperature was rising. Even with a coat on, steam seemed to be rising up in the air. Then all of a sudden, Claude thought he heard something, like a glass breaking from far away. He strained his ears, but heard nothing. Claude? The door opened behind him and he turned around. Luca was standing there. What's wrong? She asked. Oh, I can't sleep, so I was just doing some swings. You'll catch a cold dressed lightly like that. You should get back inside. Claude quickly turned around. Footsteps. No, shouts. He listened carefully. He could hear sounds from afar. No doubt about it. There's a fight going on. Luca, get inside now, and lock the door. What? Claude pushed her inside and started running towards the sounds of fighting, when he noticed 3 silhouettes heading towards him. They wore traveling clothes, but in their hands were bare blades. Not one of them hid their face. The man in front had blue hair and a muscular build. One of the other 2 at the back had a solid physique, while the other appeared to be lanky. Stop right there. Who are you people? The 3 men stopped 10 meters away. That blonde hair and red eyes. Are you Claude Zahardkiri? Claude was surprised at first, but he already expected this. These men were after him and Luca. It was clear why they didn't bother hiding their faces. They came here fully prepared to die, whether they succeeded in killing their target or not. Claude already assumed beforehand that negotiating was not an option against their enemies this time, but he didn't expect them to hold this much resolve. Good job figuring that out, Claude said. I thought for sure you'd attack the dorm. Well, we have someone who can sense people, the man in front replied. The lanky guy gave a shrug. The trap they had set wasn't entirely effective. Claude thought the Jarazak warriors being there made for a good camouflage. That sound a while ago. Was that the barrier breaking? Claude asked. Correct. We had some trouble with it, but as long as you know what kind of barrier it is, it's not that difficult to break. Claude let out a grunt. These men examined the type of barrier used. That's why it took them 10 days to make their move. Still, there was one other possibility. One or some of the Academy's admin staff should be from Ludenshire and leaked information to the enemy. Preparing to destroy the barrier then took some time. I have one question. No more talking. We can't have you buying more time. The man knew what Claude was thinking. They were most likely the men stationed in Ludenshire's border. Only few in numbers. They would be aiming to end the fight quick. The one guy who could sense others searched for this place while using the others as bait. Otherwise, they wouldn't have come here. Claude didn't have any time to hide. How long till reinforcements arrive here? 10 minutes? 20? A bead of sweat dripped down Claude's forehead. It wasn't from swinging his sword around. They're after me or Luca. Killing me will interfere with the wedding. After all, if they could sense people, there was a chance they knew where Luca was. I won't let you get to her. Not on my watch. What he needed to do now was draw their attention to the point that killing him would be much faster. Ivan woke up to the sounds of swords clashing outside. He was drinking up until 2 hours ago, so he was still a little groggy, but he needed to get up. Ivan, we got company. Ann Knight, one of the men Alexei sent for reinforcement, stormed in through the door. Just like Ivan, he was drinking a while ago too, but while his face was red, he was already armed. Sorry. I'll be right there. You can bring your sword, but don't use it. You're drunk, it'll only get in the way. Either tie up enemies, or help our comrades. Got it. Then I bolted through the hallway. As Ivan stood up, he tripped on the sheets and tumbled down to the floor. Ouch. Covering his face, he caught sight of his bag propped against the wall, a thin rod sticking out of it. Oh, right. I need to call Hikaru. It was given to him by Hikaru to use if the enemy attacked at night. At the tip of the rod was a chrysalis-shaped object with a small string extending from it. Let's see. A vase. Ivan shoved the rod into the empty vase with the chrysalis pointed upwards. As he opened the window, a chill breeze rushed in, and he could clearly hear men shouting as they fought. I need to join them soon. Why did I even get drunk? Ivan thought. He shook his head. I got to do this first. A small candle still burned on the candle stand on the table. He said to light it up. Ivan took both the candlestick and the vase to the window. As he brought the flame close to the string, it made a hissing sound and gave off sparks. Ivan's eyes widened as the spark quickly consumed the string. What the? He thought the chrysalis would explode, but instead it let out a shrill noise as it launched high into the night sky along with the rod before going off with a bang. It was a so-called skyrocket that, of course, Ivan knew nothing about. What was that? He stood there, dumbfounded. I got to go, too. He then bolted out of the room. Hikaru slept alone in his room. Right now, Catherine was in the apartment as well. She could have slept at the mansion where she stayed when classes were in session, but the servants weren't around during winter. He couldn't let her stay in a huge mansion all alone. Suddenly, light coming from a magic item illuminated his entire room. Created by Katie, it functioned by lighting up once the skyrocket exploded through some sort of a radio wave. The explosion would cause a mana reaction that would trigger the device. His place might be close to the academy, but he couldn't possibly hear the explosion. Hikaru explained about the radio that they discovered in the Zubura ruins to Katie, and she made progress in her studies about it. As for the skyrocket, Katie herself learned about it from the catalogue of artifacts. The fact that she could create this with little information just proved how incredible she was as a magic item specialist. They're here, huh? Hikaru quickly got out of bed and changed. After wearing his cloak and fastening the wakizashi on his waist, he was good to go. Hikaru. He was met by Lavia and Catherine in their pajamas in the living room. The magic lamp emitted only a faint light, and he couldn't see clearly, but he thought Catherine was surprisingly blessed around the chest area. Sorry I woke you up. I'm going. Okay. With his mobility, it would be much easier if Hikaru went alone, and Lavia's forte was large-scale magic against a large number of enemies. She wouldn't be able to do much this time. You can go back to sleep, he said. Wait. How can you be so calm about this? Catherine exclaimed. You can stay up, then, if you want. Anyway, I'm in a hurry. Bye. Lavia said. Take care, then. Catherine added, still not convinced if this was the right idea. Both Hikaru and Lavia were already used to urgent situations, while Catherine was not. Hikaru ran down the stairs and out of the building. Up in the sky, the bright moon illuminated his snowy path. With 5 points on power burst, it actually made it harder to dash at full speed in the snow. Even so, the academy was close. He made it there in less than 10 minutes after the magic item in his room went off. Hikaru slowed down as he neared the dorms. The knights from Jarazak, slightly injured, had the assailants surrounded. A few severely injured ones gathered in a corner, tended to by Ivan. There were less than 10 assailants, while 20 men, double that of the enemy, surrounded them. But the knights, their weapons on the ready, couldn't get closer. The assailants were stained in deep red, blood oozed from their bodies. One of them even lost his arm, but each and every one of them still stood. They were willing to fight to the bitter end. "Keep your guard up," Mikhail said, his great sword on hand. "Yes, sir," the men replied in unison. "Looks like I can just leave this to them," Hikaru thought. "Is this all of the enemies?" Hikaru's instinct spoke to him. Claude was not here. He was in Lecture Building C with Luca. What if an elite team headed there? A cornered rat will bite a cat. Claude hadn't fought someone who was prepared to throw their life away. Even their knights who clearly outnumbered the assailants couldn't take them all down immediately. Tenacious enemies with such firm determination were tough. Hikaru deactivated his stealth as he approached Ivan. "Ivan." Hikaru? "Where'd you come from?" "Where are the other knights?" "Over at Claude." "Well," Ivan explained things to Hikaru. "There were supposed to be 50 men, but about 20 of them took a request from the guild and went monster hunting. Those idiots." Monsters surging forth at this point in time couldn't possibly be true. Pretending to go hunt monsters and then come back was one thing, but actually going out on a hunt for real was utter foolishness. That means, a chill ran down Hikaru's spine. Right now, only Claude is protecting Luca. Claude's sword deflected the sword of the blue-haired man. It wasn't as though Lark's Lord Gradludenshire wasn't strong enough. Claude was just that much stronger. "How?" "No one told me Claude Zahard Kirill was a skilled swordsman." Larks couldn't hide his agitation. "Now you know the difference in our abilities. You'll have to bring more people if you want a chance of defeating me." Claude sounded calm, but he was anything but that. He was up against 3 people. If he took down Larks, the other 2 would surely attack. To make matters worse, the lanky man was a short bow user. "Claude just needs to buy time and he wins," Larks thought. "So he doesn't need to kill his opponent." Utter humiliation. He expected to lose against a man from Jarazak, but not someone from Kira. Contrary to Hikaru's expectations, Claude managed to defend himself. "Oh, what's this?" Then all of a sudden, Larks heard an indifferent voice. "Come on, sir. You should at least be able to kill Claude. I know we didn't expect him to be this strong, but I thought you were quite strong yourself." The lanky bow user, Ray, suddenly started speaking. His words took Larks by surprise. It wasn't the same Ray he knew. It wasn't the young man who expressed how much he respected his commander. Something's wrong, Larks thought, though he couldn't exactly tell what exactly. The other man, Lark's right hand Joseph, noticed Ray's strange behavior. "You moron! Keep your mouth shut!" Joseph yelled as he grabbed Ray's shoulders. "We have an enemy right before us." Ray stabbed Joseph's arm with something. Joseph quickly pulled away, his face twisted in pain. "What are you doing?" Ray smiled. On his hand was a syringe, its needle as big as the ones used by smiths in sewing. Blood dripped from Joseph's arm. "We'll surely lose if this goes on longer. So how about we use the ace up my sleeve?" His mouth curved into a smile, but his eyes were dead serious. The next instant, Joseph let out a scream. One of the enemies thrusted a needle into the arm of his comrade. From the man's agitation, it was clear that this wasn't part of the plan. He fell to the ground, screaming. "What did you do to him?" the blue-haired man shouted as he approached them. Sounds of clothes ripping and muscles tearing came from the man as blood sprayed out of his body and pink slimy things protruded out. At first, Claude thought it was a new type of monster. There were monsters that laid eggs inside humans. As the eggs hatched, they would come out of the host body, tearing it apart. However, the slimy things didn't completely jump out, but instead extended only about a meter in length, squirming in place. They were about as thick as sausages and looked like sea anemone, numbering around 50. Or 100 even. Joseph! The blue-haired man screamed, confused. The man named Joseph was dead, or so it appeared to be, but he raised his head, blood flowing from his eyes that were fixed at Claude. All of a sudden, he went down on all fours and scurried towards Claude. Claude quickly swung his sword, cutting Joseph's face from the front, but the man didn't stop, and instead tackled Claude to the ground. He tried to push him off, but the tentacles grasped him firmly. Claude's body creaked, the powerful grip turning his vision red as sharp pain rushed through his whole being. But words wouldn't come out. He couldn't make a sound. His sword lay on the ground by his side. He reached for it, but the tight grip of the tentacles on his arm wouldn't allow him. On his waist was a knife. Desperately, he moved his wrist. He couldn't grab it at first, and then he did. He drew the knife and stabbed at the tentacles. Stab, stab. Ahaha. That's not gonna work. He doesn't feel pain anymore. What did you do to Joseph? Larks grabbed Ray's shoulders. Oh, Captain Larks. The commanding officer wasn't aware of this part of the plan, nor did he know what the young man did to Joseph. The situation would just get worse and worse, so I used our trump card. Trump card? How could you call this a trump card? He looks like a monster. I know, Ray said casually. Larks froze. Claude frantically stabbed Joseph over and over again, but the man didn't budge. Only the tentacles wriggled about, making slithery noises. Ray, did you join the squad for this? You're mostly right. I joined your squad to test the power of our new weapon. But that's not all. I also wanted to kill Claude Zahad-Kira. We basically share the same sentiment. Share the same sentiment? You turned our comrade into this. Will he turn back to normal? Turn back? Ray cocked his head, genuinely puzzled at the question. What do you mean? We're all going to die after this mission anyway. Is there even any need to turn him back to normal? Joseph threw his life away to kill the enemy. It's an honorable death. More tentacles grew out of Joseph's body, his flesh now barely visible. Larks saw Claude smash his head a while ago, yet the tentacles didn't stop moving. This is anything but honorable, Larks muttered. He felt all strength leave his body. Ray let out an exasperated sigh. Come on. It's fine. He'll kill Claude Zahad-Kira and help in testing the new weapon. I'm sure our great leader will pay his bereaved family handsomely. Wait. What did you just say? You work for Ludensha's leader? I do. I mean, isn't it obvious? Only she has the power to entrust an important weapon like this one to anyone. Larks felt lightheaded, his knees growing weak. Everything was of the leader's design. They were all puppets playing on the palm of her hand, used as lab rats to further her goals. In the end, he couldn't choose his place of death. Joseph, like I said, he's as good as dead. We don't even know where his heart is or how he's moving. I'll write all this down in my report. Of course. The door to lecture building C opened. She probably thought it was over, since it had been quiet for a while. Larks recognized her, Luca Lord Grad Ludenshaw, wearing nothing but pajamas and a coat. Her face turned white as soon as she saw Claude on the ground restrained by the tentacles while coughing up blood. What a pleasant surprise. Ray said. I didn't think she'd come out by herself. That saves us the trouble, right? Captain Larks. Claude. Luca rushed towards him. The tentacles tried to grab her. Whoa there. Ray cut them up with his dagger and pink liquid gushed out. Claude, Please come quietly, princess. Your mother wants to see you. Claude. No. Light was slowly fading from Claude's wide-open eyes. Not wanting the tentacles from getting Luca, Ray grabbed her collar and pulled her away. Claude, stop struggling. Hey, Captain, please snap out of it and help me out here. Lux stood still, his mind in a daze. Luca's screams sounded distant in his ears. What happened to Ludenshaw? Ludenshaw was developing a clearly strange weapon which Ray used without hesitation. A girl was crying before him. Should I really be doing this? His comrade who wished to share the same fate as him was tragically turned into a tentacle-covered monster squirming on the ground. This wasn't what they wished their last moments to be, but there was no turning back now. Captain Lark, Ray's body stiffened. Claude, Luca, her face wet from tears, noticed the grip on her loosen. Then the young man collapsed, gasping for air. Blood stained the snow. Hey, you there? A voice said. Guy with the blue hair. A familiar boy stood there, one with black hair and eyes. Tell me how to get this tentacle things off of him. If you don't, I'll kill you. Hikaru's sharp gaze darted at Lark's. The dagger on his hand dyed in deep red. Hikaru's movements were quick. He spotted Claude on the ground, wrapped in something. Tentacles? They looked familiar, like the ones that grew on the back of the Earth Dragon at Anelporton. Hikaru, I got a bad feeling about this. Drake, what are you doing here? I smelled something strange, so I stuck to your back. Hikaru never thought that the dragon who did nothing but eat and sleep would go with him on his own volition. He didn't see the creature back in the apartment, so he thought he was fast asleep. Drake was on his back all along. Stay put, okay? I'm kinda pissed right now. The young, deranged man made his way to Luca who just stepped out of the building. He didn't plan to do anything to Claude. With stealth on, Hikaru closed in on Luca, went behind the man, and stabbed him with his dagger of strength. Captain Lark, Claude. Hikaru could kill the man with assassination's effect, but he didn't care. Anger surged within him, more than he imagined, when he saw Claude, his friend, hurt. Tell me how to get this tentacle things off of him. If you don't, I'll kill you. I don't know. The blue-haired man was surprised to see Hikaru appear out of nowhere, but more than that, the rage seething from the boy overwhelmed him. I see. Well, then, I didn't want any of this to happen. The blue-haired man screamed as Hikaru was about to move. I didn't wish to see someone turned into a monster. Ray said he doesn't even know where his heart is or how he's even moving. I just wanted to fight the warriors from Jarazak. I didn't mind dying at their blade. How did it come to this? The man fell on his knees, crying. Hikaru didn't know what kind of thoughts raced through his mind as he came here, but it would seem he really didn't know anything. No, wait. There is something. He mentioned something about the heart. The tentacle monster should have a core somewhere inside its body. Hikaru activated his mana detection and focused. Found it. There was a mass of mana in one spot of the creature's body. Hikaru inched closer and thrust his blade into it. The tentacles flapped about before going limp, and dropped to the ground. Claude. Lucas scurried towards him and pulled the tentacles away from his body. How did you? The blue-haired man watched in awe. Move. Hikaru moved Luca aside and pulled the man clinging to Claude away from him along with the tentacles. Luca. Claude, let him rest. Hikaru said. Claude was badly injured. His bones were broken in places. His insides were probably a mess too. Moving or hugging him would be dangerous, but leaving him here would only result in him freezing to death. What now? Hikaru could call for help, but he didn't have time to tie up the blue-haired man. But it would seem fate didn't forsake Claude just yet. Hikaru-sama. The third member of Hikaru's party came running towards them, Paula the healer. Hikaru first instructed Paula to save Claude from certain death. After Mikhail arrived, they carried him inside lecture building C so he could be healed completely. Hikaru didn't want to show Paula's powers out in public. While Claude's wounds were healed, it would still take time for him to fully recover. Paula couldn't return the blood he lost. Claude then fell asleep. "So what are you doing here?" Hikaru asked Paula. "Lavia-chan came to my place. She said you'd be fine, but the others might get injured." Lavia apparently went to the guards station to ask for help as well. She wanted to help Hikaru in a way that wouldn't hinder him. Hikaru felt happy at her thoughtfulness. Mikhail and the others succeeded in subduing the enemies, but some of his men suffered serious injuries. Paula provided them with first-aid treatment. That way, they would see her as simply a fairly skilled healer. 5 of the 11 assailants were dead, and the rest were arrested. "You can come out now, Drake." Phew. Drake came out from under Hikaru's coat. Paula and Mikhail moved to a different building to tend to the wounded. They moved Claude with the other injured as well, as that would be more convenient. Luca went to be by his side, leaving only Hikaru and Drake outside. "So what was bothering you?" Hikaru returned to lecture building C. Joseph's body was already taken away, only blood and pieces of his flesh remained. The moon sat high in the sky, illuminating their red stain on the pure white snow. Ray survived and was imprisoned along with the other assailants. The interrogation about the new weapon should begin once dawn broke. "What do you think about those tentacles?" "I thought they were creepy. I sensed something awful from those things, like they were related to something evil." "Are you talking about the evil dragon?" "Newer. Not that awful, but still. It's not too far off. I wish you'd be more specific." "So what was that exactly?" "Maybe they used some kind of method to boil down something pure evil, and by feeding it to someone, they change form." The dragon wasn't talking about cooking. A syringe lay on the snow. As Hikaru reached for it, Drake stopped him, saying the source of the transformation could be in it. "Shouldn't we examine it?" "You shouldn't carry it around. It's dangerous." "I'm sure I'll be fine as long as I don't touch it with my bare hands." Everything went dark. Hikaru thought clouds might have covered the moon. What is that? His mana detection that he left running detected something huge flying high above the sky. Slowly, it swirled around as it descended. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Closer and closer it came. The wind howled as the creature landed, crushing down trees on the courtyard and causing a shock wave. Snow on the ground prevented clouds of dust from rising. Suddenly, the whole place went quiet. The monster before him was as big as the earth dragon Hikaru fought before. Somehow the thought of running away or hiding didn't cross Hikaru's mind. Most likely because he didn't feel any animosity from the creature, a gray-colored dragon with red eyes. Puny human from another world, and my comrade. Its voice was like pure sound pressure, assaulting his body. Hikaru's coat fluttered. He couldn't keep his eyes open. He couldn't move as he listened to the voice. Even breathing was difficult. His heart raced. The voice died down, and Hikaru glared at the dragon. It looked like Drake, except several times bigger. Its eyes were larger than Hikaru's head and its body glowed under the moonlight. "Are you the one who used the evil being?" Once again. Its voice reverberated throughout the place. "Can you shut up for a minute? How do you expect me to talk when you sound like that?" The dragon raised an eyebrow. "I do not care. Answer my question. It put more force into its voice. Hikaru felt like his soul was leaving his body. When the sound quieted down, he was breathing heavily. "I see. So that's how you wanna play." Hikaru was getting pissed. "Wait, Hikaru," Drake said. "You're a Grey Noble Dragon, right?" "Hikaru has nothing to do with the evil presence here," he cut in, panicking. "A young white dragon. You must return to the dragon's home. I have my own freedom. Preposterous. A dragon that is not even fully grown yet has no right to freedom. Please listen, a great Grey Noble Dragon. Humans are interesting creatures. They make lots of delicious food. I want to learn about their culture and bring the knowledge with me back home. I'm sure the elders will." The Grey Noble Dragon didn't seem the least bit interested as it turned its attention towards Hikaru. I see. You are the one who deceived the young white dragon. Hikaru was getting used to the immense pressure. He could now breathe and keep his heartbeat under control. Deceived, you say? Hikaru scoffed. If anything else, he had been the one paying for Drake's food expenses. Sure, he helped with the Draken passage. But if Drake wanted to go home, he wouldn't be against it. But right now, he didn't feel like saying that to the Grey Noble Dragon. Hikaru, this creature that came swooping down, destroyed the yard, and ignored his request to lower down its voice, was an enemy. You are a heaven's messenger, are you not? Yet you dared deceive a dragon. Your transgression will not go unpunished. I will personally hand down your retribution right here and now. In an instant, more than 10 magic circles, smaller than the one that formed when Lavia used her flame gospel, appeared around the creature. No, stop. Hikaru's a good guy. I'm staying here out of my own will. Don't kill Hikaru. Drake cried out, desperation in his voice. The Grey Noble Dragon didn't pay him any heed. A wordless chant, and red rocks emerged from the magic circle. Begone. A metal pipe was pointed at the Grey Noble Dragon. As you wish, you will be gone. Hikaru pulled the trigger, and a giant fire materialized in the air, surging towards the Grey Noble Dragon. The Grey Noble Dragon misjudged. Humans are humans. Dragons are dragons. It believed that the latter were higher beings that lived in a completely different world. For the long-lived Grey Noble Dragon, humans were nothing but insignificant creatures. The Grey Noble Dragon had never interacted with a human like this before, but he believed humans could use their silver tongues to tempt dragons, especially younger ones. As such, he deemed it necessary to end this human's life immediately. Even if the young white dragon got caught in the crossfire, it would recover quickly. The young dragon should be returned to its home. It was an extremely reasonable train of thought for a dragon. There was that much difference in power between dragons and humans, after all. At least, that's what it thought until the raging fire came rushing out of the peculiar metal pipe. The Grey Noble Dragon flinched. A spell of this level wouldn't work on its scales that were impervious to spirit magic. Yet, it flinched, and in that instant, let loose its spell. It felt ashamed for faltering even a moment. The rocks it fired pierced the ground and destroyed buildings. As the deafening sound subsided, the clouds of dust settled. Red lumps of rock left buildings crumbling. A few bore through the earth in the distance. I must kill that human now, it thought. It was desperate, but the human was gone along with the young white dragon. Humans sure are foolish creatures. The Grey Noble Dragon scoffed. The spell just now was a diversion. He must have thought that with his small size, he could hide easily. The creature searched for signs of life nearby. It had a unique ability to expand its mana and detect its target like a sonar. How? But it couldn't find the human anywhere. It could sense humans coming out from the distant buildings, but the one he was looking for was not among them. What's more, the young white dragon was also gone. It couldn't mistake the presence of a fellow dragon. The dragon's red eyes glowed as it scanned its surroundings carefully. As soon as he let the flame gospel loose, Hikaru quickly used group obfuscation and escaped from the range of the dragon's spell. He clicked his tongue as he watched the lecture building C crumble. I worked hard to clean that place up, damn it. It was Hikaru who tidied up the cabin, aka lecture building C, that Professor Mill appropriated for herself. Seeing it destroyed so easily made him seethe with rage. You're mad at that? Wait. How'd you even dodge its spell? Linear spells are easy to dodge if you watch the direction the magic circle is facing. What? Keep it down for a bit. You better expect that that thing will find you immediately if you leave my side. Oh, okay. Hikaru wrapped Drake around his neck and ran. He opened his soul board and tapped the plus button. displaying the new skills he obtained. Soul Blaze increases Soul Board's effect by 10%. Unlock plus grants basic ability to points used to unlock a stat. Divine Connect user will know how much points are needed to gain a blessing. Access plus increases range from which the user can access others' soul boards to 50 meters. Now was the time to allocate points to them. Hikaru only had 4 points on group obfuscation, not maxed out. Soul board Hikaru age: 16 rank: 42 3 vitality, magical power, physical strength, strength 1, weapon mastery, throwing 10, max, heaven shot 0, agility, power burst 5, stealth, life obfuscation 4, mana obfuscation 4, imperceptibility 5, max, assassination 3, max, sniping 3, max, group obfuscation 4, intuition, instinct 1, detection, life detection 1, mana detection 3, detection expansion 3, max. With only 2 points available, he wouldn't be able to put a point on group obfuscation, as that would require putting a point each on its base skills, life, and mana obfuscation. He was 1 point short. Of course, there was a possibility that 4 points on group obfuscation would be enough to hide from the dragon, but Hikaru wanted to play it safe. He had no other choice. I've never faced anyone immune to my instinct. His 1 point on instinct usually told him that he could hide from his enemy, or at least he knew he might not be able to. But against the Grey Noble Draken, such intuition was not available. It wasn't as though the creature resisted his instinct, but more like the skill didn't work at the target at all. Hikaru's instinct ignored the dragon, like it was some sort of a non-living being. I just have to be extremely cautious. Hikaru chose to upgrade his Soul Blaze. His enemy this time wouldn't show mercy against humans. The moment it found Hikaru and Drake, it would probably unleash an attack. It wouldn't even care about Drake. Hikaru could leave Drake behind and max his obfuscation skills to hide himself alone. But that wasn't an option he wanted to take. It wasn't as though he didn't want to hand Drake over, or that the dragon was already family to him. He just couldn't stomach playing into the hands of someone who made a fool out of him. Soul Blaze. Activate. Hikaru's body felt remarkably light. Strength 1.1 and power burst 5.5. A 10% increase was nothing to scoff at. Even with only a point on strength, Hikaru could carry 3 red-horned rabbits, each about 60 centimeters in length, on his own. Now his group obfuscation had 4.4 points. Sure enough, the Grey Noble Draken lost sight of them. You tried to kill me. I hope you're prepared to die as well. Just like how the dragon didn't show mercy, Hikaru didn't plan to show mercy to his enemy as well, whether they were a draken or a dragon. Behind the Grey Noble Draken, Hikaru reached for the magic sword on his waist, the wakizashi, sheathed into the jet black scabbard made out of wood from a sacred tree. Casting aside any hesitation, Hikaru dashed towards the dragon, his feet screaming from the power he put into them. The creature didn't notice him or the requirement for his assassination to take effect. He drew his wakizashi and swung it down. The Grey Noble Draken had complete control of holy mana, a power that allowed it to fly and cast magic, regardless of whether spirits were present or not. Transcending any other life forms, it carried out its life mission of obliterating anything evil. That's what the Grey Noble Draken believed. It couldn't comprehend right away the sudden unease it felt in one part of its body. A little bit of time was needed for the creature to remember that it was pain and that he was wounded. Apart from its battles against huge creatures like an evil dragon, it never sustained an injury in all other fights. Whether they could even be called actual fights, though, was doubtful. They were more like one-sided trashing. There was just that much difference in power between dragons and humans or monsters. But something inexplicable was happening right now. Crimson blood was gushing out of the dragon's body. It could feel a tingling sensation at first. Then it turned hot as if burning. Pain. The grey noble dragon howled and flew up. It hadn't felt pain in a long time. The wound was deep. It tried to fly straight up, but instead turned to the right. It was extremely vexing. Its flinching earlier only served to amplify the humiliation it felt. How dare you? You will not get out of this alive. Blood gushed out in a steady stream, but the below freezing temperature up above froze the blood, sticking to its scales. The tremendous fury made it lose control of itself. A gigantic magic circle that encompassed the whole academy appeared in midair, but the spell never activated. A jet black beam fired from the roof of one of the buildings hit the grey noble dragon directly on its face. Most of its face, left eye included, was ripped out and vanished into thin air. The huge creature lost its balance and plummeted down, crashing into one of the lecture buildings. Phew. Looks like sniping worked. Hikaru stood on the roof of the admin building, revolver on his hand. He used the last bullet he got from the underground city of the ancient gods, the one containing evil magic. The other bullets that Hikaru had all contained Lavia's spells, not suited for long-range shooting. Hikaru thought the last evil bullet might work. And he was right. It was clearly effective against the grey noble dragon, destroying its face easily. Whether that was its weak spot, he didn't know. With Soul Blaze's effect, I get 11 points on throwing. Hitting my target at a long distance with only a gun is easy. Did you kill it? Is the grey noble dragon dead? If it's still alive after that, we'll have no choice but to run away. That thing didn't just want me dead, it tried to kill you too. Heck, it didn't care if it destroyed the whole academy. No. A human killing a dragon is unheard of. And that spell just now felt ominous. Was he your friend or something? No. Not really. Wait, forget about that. Hikaru came down from the roof. Going up was much easier since he could just jump with his power burst, but going back down was quite a pain. He had to carefully choose his path. Unfortunately, there was no such thing as full resistance on the soul board. He made his way to where the dragon crashed. Clouds of dust filled the air. This looks awful. Wait, what? Hikaru couldn't believe his eyes. The grey noble dragon was nowhere to be seen. He thought it was buried under the rubble, but he couldn't find it. With its huge body, it should be sticking out of the building. But only scales stuck to the walls and blood on the snow remained. The body was gone. It probably got summoned back home. Summoned? I think someone from home immediately noticed that the grey noble dragon was dead. We can't leave the corpse of a dragon out as evil creatures might use it. Forget about the reasons for now. Dragons can be summoned? Yes, but only back home. Our home can't be found in this world. It's located somewhere. How do I put it? In a different dimension? That's what the elders said. All Hikaru got from that was Drake sucked at explaining things. Hey, what's that? Is this where the attack happened? Hikaru sensed a lot of people arriving at the academy's entrance. He could feel Lavia's mana among them as well. They must be the guards that she called. Now how do I explain this mess? Will they even believe me if I told them about the dragon? What a drag. Hikaru decided he wasn't going to explain what happened. Instead, he wore his hood and took out a silver mask from his pocket. I'll just hold Silverface accountable for all this. Paula was in the dorms with the warriors from Jerazak, tending to the wounded, when the sound of an explosion echoed throughout the campus. Hikaru told her to heal them, but not too much that she'd draw attention. It didn't quite sit right with her, knowing she could heal them completely, but she had no other choice. Her abilities had to be kept secret. What was that? The deafening sound came from the yard, followed by the earth rumbling. What's happening? She thought. Hikaru was not here. Is he over there? Calm down, young lady. One man said. Hey, those who can move, follow me. We're gonna see what's going on. Wait, where are you going? Feeling uneasy, Paula bolted out of the room. She was running down the hallway when suddenly, it turned bright outside. That's Lavia's magic that Hikaru-sama carries around. There are still enemies around and he's out there fighting alone. I may not be able to do much, but I can heal him if anything happens." Hikaru always faced enemies alone, almost never bringing Paula with him. Instead, he asked her to stay somewhere safe. But what if he gets hurt? Who will help him if he's in danger? Paula was about to step out of the building when she heard a thunderous roar. Fear seizing her heart, she grasped both her hands tightly over her chest. "If Hikaru-sama's there," she muttered, lips trembling, and started running once more. What she saw was a huge dragon hovering in the skies. She had just conquered her fear, and now her legs were shaking. The gigantic creature watched the ground with animosity. Then a magic circle as big as the dragon appeared. Paula was prepared to die. She had never seen or heard of a magic circle that big. It had to be one of those spells that appeared only myths and fables, spells that could destroy a whole mountain, stop a river from flowing, or part the sea. The magic circle was pointed in her direction. Hikaru-sama. But the threat vanished in no time at all. A black beam shot from on top of a roof. Someone wearing a black coat was up there. It had to be Hikaru. The dragon's magic circle disappeared and the creature plummeted to the ground. "Wow! Incredible! You're so amazing, Hikaru-sama." Her fear-ridden heart was now filled with hope. "I should go to him," she thought. "I'm sure he's exhausted. I can make him some tea." Overjoyed, she headed to where Hikaru was. On the way, she noticed a lot of people coming from the other direction. Lavia was with them. Paul assumed that they were guards that she called for help. "Lavia's here, too." "That's even better. They must be cold. I can give them something warm to drink." Hikaru was talking to the guards with his silver mask on. Paula knew that he put the mask on whenever he did something he didn't want others to find out about. He didn't bother wearing it during Ludensha's attack, but the dragon matter, where the creature came from, she didn't know, was a different story altogether. He didn't want to get involved in it. The expressionless masked man cast a glance at Lavia. Lavia stared at the mysterious man with a serious look as though she was aware of everything going on, and flashed a smile. Hikaru smiled broadly in response. It was as though they understood each other well, like they just connected naturally, a sign that they fully trusted each other. "I know, they're lovers and I should be happy about their good relationship, so why?" But she couldn't stop the stinging in her heart. Hikaru noticed Paula heading towards him with mana detection. She stopped halfway, however, and turned back. He wondered what was going on. "So you're saying a dragon destroyed this whole place and you drove it away?" the head of the guards said, repeating Hikaru's explanation. Hikaru calmly nodded. He had already stuffed Drake into the Dimension Dragon box so the guards wouldn't see him. The white dragon didn't want to, but his color would make him stand out, leaving Hikaru not much of a choice. "That's what I've been saying," Hikaru replied. "Then where's the dragon?" "Who knows? Maybe it escaped." "You expect me to believe that? Anyway, I'm leaving. You guys can do whatever you want." Hey! Hikaru turned round and scuttled towards the back of the building. Activating his stealth, he breathed a sigh as he removed the mask. "All right, then. You guys can clean the place up. Right now, I need to establish an alibi about what I was doing when the dragon was around. I should ask Paula for help." Paula returned to the dorms, but not where the wounded were. She was somewhere far, alone. Hikaru waited for the warriors from Jarazak to pass by before making his way to where she was. "Paula, what are you doing here?" She was at the end of a dark hallway. Hikaru-sama. Hikaru was caught by surprise. Even in the darkness, he could tell there were tears in her eyes. "What's wrong? Did something happen in the dorm while I was gone?" It's nothing. Nothing happened." That can't be true, Hikaru thought. The Paula he knew was always positive and cheerful. Her crying in a dark place like this meant something definitely happened. "Are you hurt or something?" "I am fine. I'm okay, really. I'll be going now. I still need to heal the wounded." Hikaru grabbed her hand from behind as she passed by him. "Tell me what's wrong," he said. Hikaru didn't know what to do in these kinds of situations. Paula clearly needed help, and it felt like she was avoiding him. Should I call Lavia? He wondered. His instinct told him no. It was he himself who needed to speak to her. They were silent for a while. Then, unable to bear the silence any longer, Paula spoke. Hikaru-sama, can I really stay by your side? Where'd this come from? It's just, I'll get in the way between you and Lavia-chan. You're needed. If you weren't around, Claude might have not survived. No, this is not what she wants to hear. What does she want? I don't know. So I'm of use to you? Of course. I see. I'm glad, then. Paula smiled, but it was clear that she was forcing it. Paula, I get it. Now's the time to tell her. It's too cold here. Let's go somewhere else. Huh? Hikaru-sama. Hikaru dragged Paula into a nearby room. Dim, orange light filled the entire room as he turned on the magic lamp. It was just as cold here as the hallways, but the room was equipped with a heater. By the wall beside the window was a metal board with oil inside that warmed up when the handlebar was turned. Hikaru brought 2 chairs in front of the metal board. He offered the other one to Paula while he himself sat down. Hikaru-sama? Paula was confused. She didn't why they moved here. Paula, I'm not from this world. She stiffened at the sudden confession. Hikaru-sama, you? It's true. This body belonged to a boy from this world, but my soul is from another. You saw the notes in Zubura left by Oota Masaki, right? He's Japanese and he came from a different world. I came from the same place as him. No, you can't. Paula rose from her seat. Please don't tell me your secret. Paula. Hikaru wrapped his hands around hers, as if to calm her down. She sat back down with a thump. I've been meaning to tell you. I'm really awful at expressing emotions, but, he said, turning his face away, and cast a glance at Paula. I really need you. Not just that. You're important to me. So much so that I don't want others to have you. He didn't love her like he did Lavia, but the feelings he had for Paula was more than that of a friend's. When did I start feeling like this about her? He wondered. He just happened to save her once at first. Later on, she became a member of his party. He believed she would never betray him. His heart raced when she got a makeover. Hikaru needed to think it over. What did he think of her? How should he face her? He had his answer now. Paula sat there with her mouth open, tears streaming down her face. Do you really have to cry? Oh, of course. I'm just so happy. Paula wiped the tears off with her forefinger. Can I really stay by your side? She asked in a sweet, nasally voice. Yes. Forever? Sure. Forever and ever? Of course. I'm prepared for it. Tears began welling up in her eyes again, but with a red face. She flashed a bright smile. Hikaru-sama. Whoa. She embraced Hikaru all of a sudden. They almost fell over, but he managed to hang on. I am so glad. I always wondered how long I can stay. Can I even stay? I never really thought about it that much before, but recently. I see. It was easy to imagine that Paula felt worried when she saw Claude and Luca. I urged Claude to talk to Luca, when I should have done the same to Paula, Hikaru thought as he gently tapped Paula's back. He was simply delaying the matter by trying to find the perfect opportunity or tell her once things settled down. He felt awful as he imagined her suffering all the while. I'm so happy. I want to be by your side forever. Sure, that's fine by me. You can stay for as long as you like. Wait. This sounds like a proposal. Whatever. Paula, would you listen to my story? It won't take long, although it might leave you shocked. I'd be glad to. Paula pulled herself away slowly, then kissed Hikaru on the lips, catching him off guard. Paula, this is to make my oath that I will offer my body and soul to you. But you can't just. Hikaru couldn't stop his face from turning red. He was aware of Paula's feelings for him, but she had never expressed it directly as she did now. I actually got permission from Lavia. What do you mean? Paula blushed. fidgeting as she held her hands between her thighs. "Hikaru-sama got my first kiss, eh?" she said, covering her face with both hands this time and flailing her feet about. Her expression was becoming softer and softer. Hikaru would need a little bit more time before he could tell her the truth. 10 days had passed since the head of Ludenshaw received Queen Makido's summons. "Why do I have to go all the way to Forest for this?" The representative showed up displeased. First of all, she despised traveling during winter. Second, being summoned by a figurehead ruler pissed her off. What really irked her the most was the ruler herself was from Kiri, her mortal enemy. Only Makido and the Prime Minister Zofia Van Houtens were present in the spacious room. The Queen had been using Zofia a lot lately and clearly thought little of the national advisors sent to her by the different nations. Ludenshaw's representative didn't expect Makido to act this boldly, and right now, she was pondering how to tie a rope around the Queen's neck. "Thank you for coming," Makido said. "Please, take a seat." "That is a lot of attendance." "Would that be all right?" Zofia asked. "It's fine," Makido replied. Ludenshaw's head brought a sizable party with her. 3 people for work support and 5 more as bodyguards. Only she took a seat, however, while the rest stood around as though to protect her. What is she thinking? Ludenshaw's head couldn't guess Makido's intentions. Part of it was because her anger prevented her from thinking clearly. Now then, let's talk about the National Academic Research Institute in Scholazid. Makido went straight to the point. Ludenshaw's head nodded. She had received report that the squad she sent was defeated. Not only that, the Fedor gang of thugs they hired also failed in their job. She was rightfully seething. 1 month had passed since the attack. So she's complaining now, but it seems a little late, Ludenshaw's head thought. There's nothing to be afraid of, then. All my men are dead. There's no evidence left. That's what she heard, at least. According to Ludenshaw's intelligence network, every one of her subordinates, including Lux and Ray who knew about her plans, was dead. The academy was badly destroyed, Makido said. So I heard. How awful. The destruction that occurred that night was attributed to a monster whose location was still unknown. Ludenshaw's head assumed it was the work of the new weapon that Ray brought with him. Apparently, it was a draken that did it. Really? Now, wait, a draken? What? What is she talking about? No one told me about any draken. She glanced at her subordinate, who only shook their heads slightly. Your Majesty, we are not here to talk about that, Zofia cut in. Oh, right, Makido said, nodding with a dignified look. A student of the academy and a participant in the mass wedding, Claude Zahad Kirill was a target of an assassination. You're the one ordered it, yes? Do you have proof? So she mentioned something ridiculous like a draken to shake me up. Ludenshaw laughed scornfully deep inside. That's not enough to make me slip. Proof? Huh? Yes, proof. You called me here without one? Bring him here. Yes, Mom. Zofia picked up the bell on the table and rang it. The door at the back opened, revealing a slightly haggard man with an unshaven face. Lux. It was none other than Lux Lord Grad Ludenshaw. While he looked worn out, he wore fine quality clothes, the kind that nobles would wear. He was staring boldly at Ludenshaw's head. You little brat. So you already forgot your debt and betrayed me? You will pay for this. I swear I will make you pay. She was seething with rage, yet still managed to maintain a calm and composed expression. Nothing less to be expected from a head of a nation. Makido only has 3 years left in her office, she thought. She won't have the power to protect Lux. Not to mention she's from Kira. There is no way she'll cover for a man from Ludenshaw. You only have 3 more years to live. Handing the queen a death sentence in her mind, Ludenshaw's head turned her gaze back to Makido. That man seems to be a citizen of Ludenshaw, she said. No, he's a citizen of Forestia. We have to change that mentality. So you want to play with words, Your Majesty? The irritation piling up made the words slip out of her mouth. But Marquido showed no concern at all at the woman's anger. He testified that you ordered the assassination of Claude Zahard Kirill and Luca Lord Grad Ludenshaw. So we cannot overlook such a crime within the country. What? Ludenshaw's leader burst into a high-pitched laughter. It sounded nervous, even. Is there something funny? Marquido asked. It's hilarious. That man is a disgrace to his family. You shouldn't take his words seriously. So you're saying you're innocent and that Lux is lying? Of course. I cannot trust you. Marquido said straight to her face. The woman's face stiffened. So you finally revealed your true colors. You just said you can't trust me, the head of Ludenshaw. You speak of unity among the nations. But you can't forget your grudge against my nation. Wrong. You're no longer the head of Ludenshaw. You're a traitor who plotted to rebel against the state. What? This time Ludenshaw's leader was really lost. Then out of nowhere, Zofia placed a small, glass vial with dark pink liquid inside on the table. Do you recognize this? It was the vial that she gave to Ray. Her secret should have died with the young man. No. Lux is still alive. So the intel was fake and Ray is alive? But he's trained to never leak anything. It should be fine. I have no idea what that is. Still trying to play dumb, I see. Marquido said. Zofia, this here is a substance extracted from ghost-type monsters and magic rocks via accursed magic. How do you know that? Ray shouldn't even be aware of that. A slip of the tongue. She knew, but she couldn't stop herself. Oh, so you admit you produced such liquid? I'm the one asking questions here, you little bitch. The woman stood up and slammed her fist on the table, breathing heavily. Marquido, on the other hand, maintained the same tone on her voice. True, the man called Ray didn't know how it was made. All he knew was injecting the liquid into a human being turned them into a monster. We studied how it was made ourselves. You studied it? It shouldn't be that easy. There's no way they just studied it and got an answer. After learning of its monster-turning effect, one would normally suspect monster eggs. No one would usually link it to accursed magic. Besides, accursed magic belonged to the minority. Only few people could use it. A lot of time would be needed to gather magic rocks to test their theory as well. It just so happens that Zofia's cousin is an accursed magic user and she's staying in Forest for a while. And we also happened to have a lot of magic rocks available. That's just impossible. But it was clear that they somehow managed to figure out how it was manufactured. It was Ludenshaw's leader's secret weapon to throw Kirill into chaos. With it, they could invade the other nations through terrorist acts. You were plotting to use this to weaken Kirill and absorb the nation. Am I wrong? In fact, you already ordered one of your men to use it inside Forestia. That is more than enough to charge you with treason. And? What now? You're going to arrest me? A mere figurehead can't possibly do that. Ludenshaw's leader turned defiant. She was seething with rage for being made fun of, but she needed to break through this situation. If that's all you have to say, then we're done here. I'm heading back. I would appreciate it if you stayed for a little while. A young man radiating an air of intelligence emerged from the door that Ludenshaw's leader entered through earlier. He had straight green hair tied to the back. I believe you know League Green Ogre Romania. Marquido said. He exerted much effort in the investigation, traveling back and forth from here to Scholarzad. Thank you, Your Majesty. It is an honor. Giving a slight bow, League gave a hand signal behind him. 20 or so armed men streamed into the room. Ludenshaw's head and her bodyguards shrank back. The leader alone glared at Marquido. Romania approved of the wedding. Anyone who would plan to sabotage it would not get away with it. The Queen said, "It seems you miscalculated. Besides, this is not the time to be fighting among ourselves. This whole unionist and separatist thing has no place in Forestia." Only Zofia and League understood the true meaning behind her words. "We will move forward. We can't waste our time with grudges of the past. Ludensha's head was arrested for treason and her research was investigated, resulting in a great loss for the separatists. God, that old lady's terrifying. Markido exclaimed. There they were, in the visitation room after Ludensha's head was taken away. Your Majesty, you're technically older than her. Zofira said. That doesn't matter. She's still terrifying. I'm really not suited to be a ruler. I'm well aware. Wow, Your Majesty. Oh, thanks, League. Sorry you had to run around a lot. No, it's quite all right. I owe you one. After all, League smiled as he watched how Markido and Zofira got along so well. Indeed, he owed Markido for the vote she gave on the wedding. I see. Okay, then. Markido said, seemingly unconcerned. She was the type who didn't care about debts and favors, things that politicians would never overlook. She's even a greater person than I imagined. League watched Markido, wondering what she would do in her remaining 3 years in office. April. Snow still remained, but the skies were clear. A month more and the snow would completely melt away. Yellow flowers, similar to the purple primrose in Japan, bloomed here and there, sprouting through the snow, dotting the landscape in the outskirts of Forestwood. It's been a while since we came here. There's no trace of snow in town. Maybe the people shoveled them all away. With the help of connections, Hikaru secured a room good for 4 people at the 5th floor of a high-class hotel. Everywhere was fully booked. He wouldn't have been able to get a room without help. After finally checking in, Hikaru sat down to rest, while Lavia took a seat across him. Paula said she'd make tea after putting away her luggage. Drake was with her. Tomorrow's the day. Carriages went back and forth down the streets below, mostly carrying happy couples. A few of them were rather hasty, already showing off their wedding attire while riding roofless carriages. People on the streets cheered as they waved their hands. The day everyone was waiting for, the day of the mass wedding, would be tomorrow. 1,200 couples would be wed in the capital's cathedral. League was the one managing the ceremony. With him on the helm, there shouldn't be any trouble. Not immediately at least. Incidentally, League was also the one who secured the hotel room for them. Are you going to see League? Lavia asked. I don't think we can see each other for a while. We'll probably meet again once school resumes. But then again, what is it? Hikaru wondered if he needed to enroll again this year. He had already learned a lot from Professor Mill. Unless there was someone better at the short sword than her, he had no reason to stay in the academy any longer. How much of the books in the library have you read? He asked Lavia. I've read most, if not all, of the notable ones. The only things I haven't touched are theses, research studies, catalogs. I guess. The library in the academy was mostly used as a resource center. Most of the materials were not the kind Lavia would read. I see. I guess we can leave Forestier, then. I'll go wherever you want to go. But what about the Student Alliance? That's this country's problem anyway. I can't be involved with it forever. As for Professor Katie's research, I don't think she'll ever stop asking for help. With the help of Drake, Katie had enthusiastically made progress in her research on holy mana over the winter. While she never treated the draken roughly, Drake frequently complained about the nasty way she used her hands or that her eyes were terrifying. As a result, Drake hadn't seen Hikaru lately. After he killed the Grey Noble Draken, he shoved Drake into the Dimension Dragon box, a thing made out of the stomach of a dragon, a species that Drake's kind despised. The draken was stuck inside for a while and after he came out, he was mad at Hikaru for a few days. Hikaru-sama, Lavia-chan, tea is ready. Thanks. Thank you, Paula. Take a seat. Lavia said. We were talking about our future plans. Okay. Paula took a vacant seat. It wasn't as though Hikaru and Paula got a lot closer after that night. Like usual, she stayed by Hikaru and Lavia's side, cooking and going shopping with them. But she had moved to the apartment, and she was now more frank when talking to Hikaru. Was this for the best? Hikaru wondered. I sure hope so. I don't get how women think. That night, Hikaru went back home with Lavia and told her everything that happened, even the surprise kiss. So she finally did it. Lavia was actually happy. Do you get excited when some other woman steals me away from you? What are you saying? That's not it. I like Paula. She's my first friend. I just thought she'd eventually break down if things stayed as they are. It was clear that Paula liked Hikaru in a romantic way. She probably even harbored deeper feelings than that. But her feelings could never be answered as long as Lavia was around. Yet, her promise with Hikaru prevented her from leaving. Lavia and Paula talked a lot while Hikaru wasn't around. Hikaru was everything to Lavia and she told Paula her life story. Paula herself told Lavia about her life back in the village of Cotton Elka. Lavia didn't want to see her friend worn down from thinking about the boy she liked. But, I love you, Hikaru said. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. What about Paula, then? Paula is important to me. So much so that I don't want anyone else to have her. That's not love. It's a little different. It's like, you might hate me for saying it. I would never hate you. Just be honest with me. Yes. Let's see. It's more like I want to monopolize her. I'd be furious if a girl who likes me was taken by someone else, even though I'll never answer her feelings. I know I'm just being selfish. Hikaru was disgusted with himself, at how self-centered he was. No, you're not being selfish, and I'm sure Paula would be happy to hear that. I'm not asking you to do anything. Since we never stay in one place, I just figured it would be better if we had Paula with us. If things stayed the way they are, she would have fell apart. Wow, Hikaru thought. Lavia was more focused on the future than he was and she had a firm grasp of their situation. She even tried to find a solution. It was hard to believe she was the youngest of the three. I'm kinda selfish too. I was glad to find out she kissed you, but I also feel a little jealous, Lavia said as she forced a smile. Hikaru-sama, what's the matter? His mind is somewhere else, obviously. No, it's not. The jar of dried fruits we just bought is in there somewhere. You can ahead and eat them. Really? You say some pretty good things once in a while. Drake jumped from Paula's neck and scuttled into the next room. All right. That's the nuisance gone. You've been treating Drake roughly lately. You look like an evil villain right now, Hikaru-sama. Wow, rude. I just don't feel the need to be reserved around him anymore. I mean, Drake's the one who was pretty blunt right from the start, Hikaru thought as he took out a bag made of smooth cloth. Inside were small bracelets about 2 centimeters wide. The words New Moon Star was etched into them. Their party name. Paula was surprised. She knew where they bought these. In a jewelry store in Scholarshead. She saw Hikaru and Lavia in there looking at bracelets, but Hikaru took out 3 of them from the bag. Our birthdays are 1 month apart. I figured they'd be perfect for birthday presents. Is this for me? Paula asked. Yup. For all 3 members of our party. Tears welled up in her eyes as Paula received the bracelet. She thought they would buy 2 and wear them as a couple, but she was wrong. Thank you. Thank you so much, Paula said, choking back tears. Hikaru gave a wry smile. Let's try them on. If they don't fit, we'll have to make some adjustments. I'll adjust the size of my arm for it. You know that's impossible. Fortunately, they all fit. Hikaru felt somewhat embarrassed. Lavia was ecstatic, while Paula stared at the bracelet, wiping tears off with a handkerchief. All right, let's check the city out. Yeah, let's go. Okay, wait for me. Drake came rushing from the next room. Oops, forgot about you. Meanie. Just kidding. Let's go. And so 3 people and 1 small creature headed out to the festive streets of the capital. Forest's Cathedral was a historic building made entirely out of stone. Its doors were wide open, located above a flight of stairs of about 30 steps. Just for today, entrance was limited. A multitude of people converged around the stairs and crowded the open space out front. That's a lot of people. Yeah, They all look happy. They must have been waiting for this day. Hikaru, Lavia, and Paula, drake around her neck, were in a terrace of a cafe, also secured through connections, overlooking the crowd of people. So there's about 2,400 people dressed up among them, huh? I wonder what they look like. Mikhail said. I don't think you'll ever be one of them, Ivan said, earning him a fist from the professor. I wished someone who'd take care of me and let me drink all day would appear before me. Mill shot glances at Hikaru. Why are you looking at me, Professor? Hikaru said. Lavia, you see that group over there? That's Yoruba's traditional attire. Catherine said. Oh, it's different from what I imagined. Most of those related to the Student Alliance were here. League, being part of management, was inside the cathedral, and so was Sylvester as the head of Zubura. Katie remained in the academy, burying herself into her research. Just tell me what happened afterwards, she said. Mill sighed. Research this, research that. That's why she's still single. No one bothered saying you're single yourself. No need to stir up trouble right now. I sure hope a Draken doesn't show up today. They can fly, right? Mikhail joked. Word had spread about the Draken that Silverface told the guards about. He said it escaped, however. Only few believed that they existed. Most people were skeptical. For a moment, Mikhail and the others suspected Hikaru to be Silverface, but eventually concluded that Hikaru's weapon, a dagger, couldn't possibly hurt a huge monster and make it bleed a lot. Hikaru himself denied it and said that when Silverface was around, he was with Paula the entire time. Who knows? Maybe Drakens won't ruin such a beautiful day. Hikaru said. The bell tolled, signaling the start of the ceremony. The cathedral was created as a place of worship for this world's god. Churches in the regional areas developed in their own, and the priests in Forasad's cathedral were not corrupt, but were clergymen that properly revered their god. We who are born into this world must live our lives following the path of righteousness, not evil. It is a blessing to have a partner to walk that long path with. A gray-haired priest gave a speech on the altar with a voice amplifier. Dazzling sunlight streaming in through the huge, circular stained glass above shone on the couples packed inside the cathedral. Some wore pure white dresses, some native attires. There were different kinds of couples too, not just the typical man and woman, the somewhat elderly. Both men, and both women. They didn't seem to have anything in similar, but every one last of them was feeling enraptured. Today, you will all exchange vows with your life partner before God, to love each other all for as long as you live, to share both pain and happiness. The priest kneeled and hung his head low. Some brides and grooms copied him, while some closed their eyes. There were various responses. Despite the large number of people, it was quiet and solemn. After about a minute, the priest stood up. God has heard of your vows. I have learned that most of you here have waited so long for this day to come, to finally be married to the ones you love. I pray that God blesses you all. The priest then shot a glance at the guests seated by the wall. Unfortunately, Queen Markido couldn't make it. But we have a guest, the head of the province of Romania, League Greenoga Romania, who has a few words to share with us. There was a slight stir among some of the couples. Most people here didn't know much about politics, but those who did noticed two significant things from what the priest said. First, he called Romania a province. Up until now, the 7 nations were allied only by name, and Romania was often referred to as the nation of Romania or the domain of Romania. The couples present probably hadn't heard of the term province used before. The Forasad Church was basically saying that we should be more united. Of course, the fact that it was holding this ceremony already showed that the church belonged to the Unionist faction. Second, the priest referred to League as the head of Romania. It was clear that he represented his father Billion, but this was the first time that he was referred to as a head publicly. Good job, League. Grasping Luca's hand the entire time, Claude regarded League as he took the podium. League cemented his position as the next head of Romania during this winter. Better stay focused or League might take everything from the Student Alliance too. Sylvester, one of their friends who was also in the guests' seats, watched League talking with a smile on his face. A new era was dawning on the allied nations of Forestia. What if a dragon shows up now? How do we deal with it? Mikhail asked Hikaru. No idea. Hikaru replied. Why are you even asking me? Look, Hikaru-sama, they're coming out, Paula said. Hikaru turned his attention to the open space in front of the cathedral. The enormous door opened and the dressed-up stars of today's event streamed out. Among them was Claude and Luca. People cheered even louder than before. Claude glanced around and noticed the cafe terrace Hikaru and the others were in. He seemed to be saying something. What did he say? Lavia asked. I didn't really hear, but I can make a guess. My Luca's the most beautiful of them all. Or something along those lines. As proof, Luca elbowed Claude. A few hiccups here and there, but they look happy. Hikaru watched them with a smile on his face, resting his chin on his hand. You look happy yourself. Lavia said. Me? You're smiling. Not realizing he was grinning, Hikaru tried to play it cool. It's okay to smile. It's a special day, Lavia said as she wrapped her arm around his. A special day, huh? I suppose it is. This might be the first time since I came to this world that I've experienced such a joyous day. Confetti fluttered under the bright sun. Is this true? Queen Marquido and her cabinet ministers, Zofira included, were gathered in the conference room. In Zofira's hands were several sheets containing information from across countries. Yes, we received the same intel from Ponsonia, Quinbland, and Iron Beast. There's no word from Bios, presumably because of the whole Pope situation. What did they say? They want verification of said intel. Only Quinbland seemed to already understand what it means, but wants confirmation all the same. What do you all think? The ministers gave their opinions, but none were decisive. The information was just that surprising and alien to them. So Vereshchin's weird movement was all for this. A few months ago, Marquido received information that the maritime nation of Vereshchin was rushing to build a warship and buying up provisions. Now she finally understood why. Regardless of whether this is true or not, we must answer to their call, Marquido said. I'm heading to Vereshchin personally. Voices of awe came from the ministers. None of them objected. The matter at hand was that important. I'll verify it with my own eyes and ears. I want to see if humans really survived to the east of Vereshchin, to the edge of the sea, the ruined continent.